Mama, we made it. What it do though, baby?
The harmonies are getting tight.
The harmonies are getting really tight.
Very good.
You know what I'm saying?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? You got your boy Nushi in the building.
And Roushi in the building.
And we have an extra special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, give yourselves, wherever y'all listening to this, a round of applause for Miss Itika Oldwine. What's going down?
In the building.
Richmond, California's very own All the Bay stand-up.
Oh, my gosh. Please do. Please.
You feel me?
Bay Area.
Shout out to the Bay Area.
Bay Area.
Itika, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is an absolute honor and a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this story, man.
100%. This is one that definitely I thought about actually a long time ago.
Aww.
And I'm glad my wife Kalia, shout out to Kalia.
Shout out to Kalia. What up?
Was like, you know what? You should have Itika on. And I'm glad she pushed me because I think you have a really cool story from what I've heard of it, but I want to get more into it and dive into the depths of your journey, Miss Itika.
Oh my goodness.
Diving into the depths.
Oh
with the
my
Dive into the depths.
Okay.
So starting it off, you're from the Bay.
I'm from the Bay Area.
Tell us about what growing up was like in the Bay.
Oh, growing up in the Bay. It's so funny because as an adult, I have a lot of dreams about growing up in the Bay Area.
Really?
A lot of dreams. Specifically about my grandmother's street. Because when my parents divorced, my sister and I moved in with our grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And our grandparents lived in the same house that they raised their children in. So it was the house that my mom grew up in, essentially.
Oh, man.
And the street was like your black middle class in that middle working class neighborhood. But it was across the street on both sides from the projects. And so we lived in the house, on this street and street with homes. And then there's projects on either side.
Oh,
crazy.
man.
And across the street in the projects were like friends and family members. And on the other side where the other projects were the projects that my mom moved into when she was pregnant with me and where I was born.
Wow.
I was born in the projects.
Oh,
but these
man.
were the days when the projects were like, we need housing that's affordable for young women who are pregnant like my mother. Or, the people in this community can't afford certain, housing. So we want nice, affordable housing. This is before the 80s when crack came and like messed everything up, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I dream about this street all the time. So growing up in the Bay Area, I guess that's how, it's like you're living amongst a community of what I felt like were working class people that wanted to better themselves and, were close with one another. And some of them lived in homes, in single family homes, and some of them lived in projects, but we all lived in such close proximity that you weren't really judging anybody because that was your neighbor, that was your classmate, that was your aunt or your uncle. Whether you judged them because they had more than you or less than you, that really, from my vantage point growing up, that really didn't happen. Now, maybe it happened for someone else, but that wasn't my story. So I don't know. Okay, where do we go? What was like?
It's so interesting because we actually kind of hear similar stuff like that a lot where you don't really understand perception until you're older and experience that stuff later in life. But when you're in there living, especially as a kid, you don't really have anything to compare it to. So there's not that like extreme difference.
Right.
And it really sucks that people's perception of something like the projects is deep, dark, super negative when you can actually have very fond memories of that.
Exactly. And I mean, fond as far I remember learning how to ride my bike in the projects. I remember like going to school with the neighborhood like daycare center that kind of picked up and dropped off, and you picked up some kids from certain, housing projects, and you picked up some kids from this home. It wasn't like, oh, this girl's being picked up from the projects and this kid is being picked up from here.
And at the same time, as children especially, I feel like it's harder to distinguish like class and color and project and area.
Where we were from, it was like, oh, she getting picked up from there, she don't play, or her family don't play, or don't mess with her. it was like, that was like, yo, security, you like, oh, they picked you up from there, okay, we know not to mess with you because you got family that live over there, your cousins, and we heard about that. So it was more so like where I was from, like that was your security blanket. That was like you were not to be messed with or play with. So it kind of, for me, I stayed in my lane when it came to those types of things. So it wasn't a bad thing from my vantage point on any level, from my perception.
How old were you when you moved in with your grandparents?
I think I was like 9 or 10. My parents divorced when I was like 9 or 10. And my sister and I moved in with my grandmother and my grandfather. And it was so different because we grew up, when my parents were married, we grew up in more so like maybe an upper middle class suburb of the Bay Area. Okay. So I don't know how it is now, but this area is like Fairfield, Vacaville. You're familiar. So that's where we grew up after, like, my parents moved off the projects. Gotcha. And then they moved to like Fairfield, Vacaville, and then when they divorced, we moved in with my grandparents and we moved back to Richmond. And so it was a huge culture shock for me, and I didn't realize it was a culture shock. I knew I felt different, and I knew I had seen things that the other kids hadn't seen. That's what I knew. Gotcha. I knew I was moving into a community with people who had always lived in the community, but since I had lived outside of the community, I knew coming back in that I had seen things. Like, I just knew I had seen things that these other kids who were my same age and hadn't seen. And so it just made me feel like I didn't want to stay there. I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. I don't know about this.
Well, it's the possibility.
It was the possibility.
This is something that also comes up.
Yeah, it was the possibility. And my father lived in Sacramento, and so we would visit him. He was like every other weekend dad kind of thing. But I mean, amazing. Not, showed up every other weekend, holiday, summers. So then we would be taken out of Richmond, which is, at this time, it's a very, it's, I hate to say it because I love my community. I love Richmond so much, but it can be hard to see outside of Richmond. It can be hard to see outside of, I'm trying to be so delicate because I love my people. It can be hard to see that there are opportunities
for sure
outside of like this very
bubble.
Small town that there's really no opportunities in. And so, and you're afraid. You're like, where do I go? Who do I talk to? I don't even know where to start. Whereas my dad was picking my sister and I up every other weekend and showing us, like taking us to Oregon, taking us to Sacramento, taking us to Fresno, taking us to LA. Like, these are all the places outside of Richmond. And we're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. It was just normal for us. Yeah. Whereas other children I knew weren't being exposed in that way that regularly.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Richmond, like you're saying. There's pockets like this all around the world.
Yeah.
And the U.S.
For sure.
And California.
Even out here.
Yes.
Like, this cat's in Inglewood that never been to the beach.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And like vice versa.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was like, I think about that as like my saving grace, because once my dad, once we started doing that with my father, and because we had lived outside of Richmond with my mom and dad, I was always curious about other things. Yeah. Like, I never felt like Richmond was like it. I was like, this is just like a stopgap until the next phase.
What were you like as a kid? Like, what was childhood like?
Dang, what was I like? That's so funny. I think early on, my family was very overprotective because they knew my sister and I were, young girls growing up in Richmond. They were very protective of us. Unfortunately, in communities like that, there's a lot of like predators. Yeah. You have to just be honest,
For sure.
Whether it's family members, whether it's people on the street, whether it's neighbors. there are a lot of people that prey on young girls. And maybe every community, but you know, in communities such as Richmond, it happens often. And so my family was very, very, very protective of us. So as a kid, I feel like I was just always trying to like stay in whatever pocket I needed to stay in. So I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't like super duper curious to the fact that I was trying to get out the pocket because I was scared, like I'm gonna get in trouble. Like I was that I'm gonna get in trouble girl. I was like, I can't do it because I'm gonna get in trouble. Like I was not even trying to get in trouble. I was not interested.
Nope.
I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. Like I was scared. I knew it was gonna come to getting like, and my family didn't play. So younger, I stayed in my lane because I knew I was gonna get in trouble. And then I think around high school, I started hanging out with some girlfriends, and they were like turned in these days. They would be like the turned girls in high school. And I was curious. I was like, oh, what's going on over there? What's going on over there? And I stopped caring as much about getting in trouble. So it really, I think high school, as a kid, junior high, I like stayed in my lane. And then I think high school around sophomore year, I started getting more curious about what was going on outside of this place that my family had made sure I stayed in. And then I just kind of just became Itika, and it was no holds barred. It was really a lot.
Really? What were your interests? Like, I mean, kind of going up to high school, like where were you, who were you becoming?
Gosh, I mean, I don't know. I was always really bookish. I really was. I really always liked to read. There was no real internet. Lord, I'm aging myself. There was no internet. There
was no internet for anyone at this table.
There was no internet whatsoever. So I was really bookish. So I really liked to read. I did. I really liked to read. I also liked movies. But we didn't go to the movies like that because we were kind of, money wasn't like that. So we were always like watching VHSs. So it was like between reading and VHSs. And then, I was a girl. So like, I think I liked Janet Jackson or something. And I had like a small itty bitty window where I thought I was going to be Janet Jackson. And then somebody told me, the first person, and whoever they were, thank you, that I couldn't sing. And I was like, I can't sing. They were like, you cannot sing. I was like, damn it, I can't be Janet Jackson. But I didn't argue with him because I kind of knew in my soul that I couldn't sing, but no one had broken to me.
It.
What was that conversation? Was it like, no, you can't sing? It was like, Itika, come here. Let me tell you something.
No, they didn't play in my community. They was like, girl, you know you can't sing. I was like, what? They were like, you cannot sing. I was like, I can't sing. And then I asked my grandmother because she would give it to you straight and tracer. I called her Big Mama. I said, Big Mama, can I sing? She looked at me. She said, you can hold a note. I was like, dang it, I will never be Janet Jackson. I knew it. I was like, I will never be Janet Jackson. So I gave up my hopes and dreams of being Janet Jackson, and I stayed with
a quickness.
I didn't even try. Like, I was one of the people, like, you tell me once. You ain't got to, use this. I mean, I asked my Big Mama. She was like the it. Like, she was it. Like, if Big Mama says it is. So if she would have been like, you can sing. Don't let these people tell you can't sing. Then I would have, continue on my journey to be Janet Jackson. But when I found out I couldn't sing, I let Janet Jackson go, and then I kept doing my bookish thing because that's how I was going to get out of Richmond in my head. Like I was like, only way I'm going to get out of here is education because that's what my family told me. They're like, awesome. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. And then I looked and I'm like, well, there are no colleges in Richmond. I was like, so that means I'm going to get out of Richmond. So then I was like, so then it was like college. So I think that's why I was really like into my books. And then, like I said, movies, VHS, because I had to stay at home. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere until like sophomore year. Then I could actually like go certain places.
Were your friends at the time similar to you in terms of like diving into the books? And because I feel like that's something as you get older could cause like a separation, especially with kids. I remember you could not get me in the library. I was like, those things in the library, you go for the summer and you have to read like 13 books. Just to get like the puzzle piece or whatever, whatever they do. No. I made my younger sister like double down on her books and like put my name on it. Like,
that's so funny. Well, I'll tell you this: I was always comfortable and confident in who I was, and so because I had to say that, and I never really thought about it like that. Because I was confident in the fact that I was a smart girl, like I knew I was smart. Like I just caught on to things and I got things and I kind of like figured things out. and I did well in school. So no, I was smart. So I wasn't going to let people make me ashamed of being smart. So I kind of made smart being cool. Oh. So I made my friends who were just kind of like slipping a little bit. Like I told them like, so where are you going to go to college? And they're like,
Yeah.
So I made that.
Tika in second grade. Where are you going to go to college?
I did. I was like, where are you
Big
going
Mama in the corner like,
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Exactly. I was like, y'all gonna have to come over here because we going to college over here.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
And honestly, all my friends growing up all went to college.
Awesome.
And I don't want to take credit for it, but I will say that if you wasn't going to college, like you weren't in my crew.
I love
it. That was like a thing. So it was cool to be smart. We weren't nerds by any stretch of the imagination. In that, I hate to use that word nerd, in that like that kind of thing. We were
education
cool.
mattered.
We were cool girls who were in AP. In the hood.
I feel you.
Like it was just what it was. Like it wasn't going to be anything else because I was like, we got to get out of here. Y'all remember that. So that's what it, that's essentially what it was. Thank God.
Incredible.
Because it could have been something different.
When you entered high school, you said like that's when you became Itika. Mm-hmm. What was that? I guess get into that evolution a little bit.
So I knew all along that I was kind of just following the rules. I knew that I had to do this, and then I felt like I wanted to like do different things. Like I was like, I don't want to come home. Like I want to actually stay out,
What was it like? Do you think it came from a rebellious place or just like a more adventurous kind of place? Like,
It came from curiosity. I was really curious of what was going on other places, like outside of my home, like outside of my family. Like what did other families look like? What did they eat for breakfast? What did, they do on the weekends? How did they, I don't know. I just was curious.
Yeah.
And then I was like excited and it was fun. And because I was raised in large part by my grandparents, they were a little older. So then you have these younger moms and then you kind of want to see like, what the younger moms were doing. It was just curiosity. And then I found one girlfriend in particular, and then we kind of formed a little crew who I was really excited about and kind of attached to and really curious about her life. And I think because I was so curious about her life, I just didn't care about what my family thought anymore. I was like, I want to know what's going on over there with her.
What made you curious?
She just was kind of like a whole woman at like 14. She was just like grown. Really? She was like, I was like, girl, you are an adult. Like I knew it like in my head. I'm like, you do things that like older people do, but you do them. Like she would be in the mall. She would be in Oakland. She would be at boys' houses. She would be like in grown people's cars. She would be planning trips. It was just so crazy. I was like, how are you doing all this stuff? like she would be shopping like by herself. She was just doing all of these things. And we were like, I guess 14 at the time.
Yeah.
Or 13 or something that I just thought was relegated to grown women. So like you have to be older in order to do these things, but she was doing them. And that to me was exciting. Like I was like, I want to do those things too. I thought I had to wait 7 years to do it. But you can do it right now. And so I think that sparks my curiosity. And then it just became kind of fun. Then life became fun for like the first time.
Gotcha.
I was like having fun.
Wow.
Yeah. I was having fun. Like I knew it. I felt. I was like, this is fun. Like these things are fun. This is fucking fun.
For sure.
Well, it seems like you were really breaking out of this shell because you actually never had the opportunity to see. It was like goes back to kind of opening these doors to these new worlds that you're being introduced to. I mean, like, and we can be so defined as kids of like what we like.
Yeah.
Like it could be anything from, I like hip hop music, so I'm the hip hop guy, or
right.
I'm the punk rock guy, or I'm the sports guy. And you just start kind of defining yourself. And when you get introduced to something, you're like, wait a minute, I like that too. Let me just dab my foot over there.
Yeah.
So it must have felt pretty liberating for you.
It felt liberating because it felt like for so long I was told to be smart, smart, smart and not be fun, essentially.
Like they can't almost be synonymous with each
Yeah.
other.
And then when I met this girl and then kind of got attached to this group, I was having so much fun, but I was still doing my schoolwork and I was still focused and I was still a good kid.
Yeah.
But then that's where I think the real fun for me came in, and like I was enjoying myself as a teenager, preteen, teenager kind of thing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. So much fun.
Well, and it's interesting how you were able to maintain being a good student. Because
That wasn't a choice.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like, if you want to stay in this house, you're gonna get good grades. Like it was not a choice. It was
Got
like
it.
you want to live on the street and then you look outside, you're like, I can't survive out there. Feed me to the wolves. And my family did not play. There were no empty threats. It was like, what you gonna do? So you got a decision to make. And so I knew I had to keep my
It's
grades
almost a
up.
blessing, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be able to have that, I guess, like veil, but like not like level of control.
Yes.
But at the same time, have it like the value instilled in you to the point where it's like it's a part of your ethos.
Yeah.
But okay, you want to break away a little bit. You're getting older.
Yes.
As long as you keep your life in check,
Yes.
you can go ahead and do that.
And that's exactly what it was. It was in such a precise way. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't have known how important it was to say that to me, because I don't think I would have ever just became the kid that was just like lost in the sauce. But who knows? You know what I
sure.
mean? But they were so adamant about, these are the rules of this house. Now, if you want to do this, this, and that, there's that. But these are the rules, like in this house. And they, like I said, there were no empty threats. So they would have stuck by it. Like they would have, sent me packing.
And you knew that.
And I knew it. And it would have been out of love and out of respect for themselves. So I come from like a very like prideful people. So it's like, you're not going to disrespect me. You 14, you still ain't going to disrespect me. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
especially are not going to disrespect me.
For sure.
So it was just that level of pride that would have allowed them to do what they needed to do, just to show me that I had to be respectful.
Got you.
And that's really what it was all about.
Did you, going through high school in this kind of new time, was there anything you were like ambitious about in terms of interest wise, whether or was it just like, I got to make it to college and from there I'll figure it out?
Yeah, I think so. I think I didn't. It's so interesting because later in life, I saw so much that I was like, all these things are possible, but I wasn't exposed to. I know it didn't happen until later because I wasn't exposed to it and I didn't have the imagination to take me somewhere else. You know, there are some children who have like vivid
sure.
imaginations. My imagination was pretty average. Like, you know, I imagined myself out of the hood.
I don't know what that looked like.
I was out. That's it. But like, that was it. Like, there wasn't anything
now what?
else
For
really.
sure.
And now what? Like, my imagination kind of ended there, but at least it got me there.
The blueprint started and ended with education.
That was it.
Say, look, you want to get out the hood? Like, do good in school.
That was it.
We can't tell you anything after that. Nothing before that. Just, that's page one.
Page
You'll
one.
write the rest.
You exactly, but my imagination took me past that. So honestly, all I thought about was going to college. And I was that girl who watched like A Different World and Cosby Show as a young girl. So I knew what college looked like because I saw it on TV. So I was like, that looks fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there. And then I had older cousins that went to college. I did. Thankfully, my family, they pressed education on us all. So I had older cousins that went to college. So I saw that. But I didn't see professional people, meaning I saw what my grandmother did as a profession, my dad did as a profession, my mom, blah, and I didn't want to do anything they did. And it didn't pique my interest. So I didn't see myself as a professional because I was like, well, I don't want to work, at the bank and I don't want to work at this. Like I knew that, but I didn't know what it was that I was going to be doing to make a living because I hadn't seen it yet. If that makes
That's
sense.
so interesting. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I was like, I don't know what that thing is going to be because I know what it's not going to be, but I have no idea what it's going to be.
Did you have friends around you that kind of had their ambitions or anything like that? Or were you guys more of a collective of kind of just this common bond of education?
It was education and boys.
And
For
boys,
sure.
don't leave that part out, Joe. Don't leave it out.
It was definitely boys in there, okay? There were definitely boys. It was education and boys. But those two reasons, that was it. There was no, I don't think, I'm speaking for myself. I'm thinking about to our conversations, and you know, we like to dress nice and get our hair done and our nails done and things like that. But that was just kind of where we're from. Like, you have to do, like, you get your nails done. Like, what's wrong with her? You know, like, you know. So it's just, that's what it was. But yeah, I think we were just consumed with, like, we want to go to college, and then, like, who's our boyfriend?
Yeah.
You know.
So when did college come to become a reality for you?
Well, it's pretty much always a reality.
No, sorry, I'll rephrase that in terms of, like, you take SATs, but when it really starts, like, oh, it's I don't know if it starts junior or senior year, but it's like, oh, I'm going through these colleges, like.
Yeah, I mean, I just was like going through the motions of high school, to be honest. So college was always like, I got to do good in high school. I got to take these AP courses, and I'm going to go to college. I actually graduated from high school early.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I graduated like after, I really, like, senior year was mandatory that I went the first, like, quarter. But I was like, ugh. They were like, well, you have to go the first quarter. I was like, fine. And then after the first quarter, I got a full-time job at the Gap across the street from UC Berkeley, because I was like, this is where I'm gonna, you know, eventually I'm gonna be over here. So I just
Oh, so you wanted to go to UC Berkeley?
I did not want to go to
you
UC
did not.
Berkeley. I didn't. I wanted to go to UCLA, which is where I ended up going. I went to UC
why
Berkeley.
UCLA?
I wanted to go to LA.
Have you ever been before?
I had. So my dad grew up in LA, went to Fairfax High, and he would drive us to LA, and we would drive through the Grapevine. And as soon as we got over the Grapevine, I would start seeing all these Mercedes Benzes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and I was a kid. I'm like, Daddy, what kind of car is that? He's like, it's a Mercedes Benz. I'm like, what? and I would look, I'd be like, what's that? He's like, I'm like, why? I was like, how do they have so many Mercedes Benzes in LA? And he's like, that's how people are out here. They buy expensive cars. I was like, they don't do it in the Bay. He was like, no, not really. And I was like, I want to move to LA because they have all these Mercedes Benzes. It's a true
I love that.
story.
That was like that's like the defining thing.
I love it.
I am not playing. Like, I remember specifically, and I didn't think of myself as a materialistic kid. I just saw them, and they were nice, and they looked luxe, and they looked.
Yeah. No, it's wild because I used to visit. See,
We had Volvos, but go on.
We were in the Bay also. And, like, I used to visit my mom's friends out here when I was in, like, junior high.
Yeah.
And, like, Los Angeles is such a different vibe
Yes.
from the Bay.
Yes.
really
Like, you
is.
come out, like,
It's
I
like a
literally
different
remember
state, dude.
telling my mom, like, we got to live here sometime.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's just a different world.
Yes. I tried to move here in high school, and my grandmother would not have it. But I had a aunt who lived here, and I was like, she said I could move here with her, and I could do, like, since I only have my senior year, I only have to do half of it. She said I could do, like, have my senior year. When I'm done, I can move to LA. She's like, no. Shit. I was like, I have to wait till I go to college now. Okay. Back to the, drawing board. But I don't know. I was attracted to LA in that way. And then the Bay Area, I was always really cold. I remember being cold and it being overcast.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like it because it would make me sad. Like, I would get that, whatever that depression thing is, they say it's like sudden weather, some kind of, it's like technical term.
Oh, I don't know this.
Yeah, because I used to get it when I lived in Chicago.
I just know it as depression.
Yeah, but it's a technical term that has to do with, like, the weather.
Really?
Interesting.
So yeah, you need sunlight.
Cats in London, like, have that for sure.
Yeah, but it affects you. And so I remember as a kid just being, like, kind of lethargic and not my bubbly self.
Wow.
And then when the sun would come out, because it would be like overcast. It's not as bad in LA, but it's probably like this in Santa Monica, where it's overcast until like noon.
Yeah.
And then it's sunny and then it's dark. So I remember, like, earlier in the day being like, and then it would be like lunchtime, I'd be like, turn up. And I'd be like, oh, I got to go home, and then it's dark. So I remember like not liking that, and then not liking being cold and not liking being wet because it rains all the time. So the weather here, I was like, oh my God, it's sunny all the time. It doesn't rain.
Spring forever.
It's spring forever. It's warm. The water never really attracted me to Southern California because I lived so close to the water in Northern California.
Right.
So it really was never a water thing. Because I'm like, okay, right. Like I lived a block from the water and never went to the water.
And the Pacific Ocean, by the way, is freezing all the time.
And it's kind of dirty.
For sure.
Yeah, it is kind of dirty. But
That's like go to Malibu, but it's like
that's like a misconception of like what people think LA and California.
sure.
Like California, sunshine and ocean. The ocean is freezing.
It's freezing.
Always.
It's freezing. It's not I'll go to the ocean in Miami. It's warm. Like it's just so, and it feels cleaner. I don't know.
But so is the air in Miami. Like Miami's humid as hell. Like,
Yeah. It's just a different kind of vibe. It's a different kind of vibe. But yeah, I never.
No shade to Miami though.
No shade. I love Miami. I just got back from Miami this weekend. I had such a great time. It was a bachelorette weekend. But anyway, enough about that.
Hey.
I was so well behaved. Trust me. I was like, damn it. I've totally turned over a new leaf. 'Cause Miami at this age compared to when I first went at 24 is like, night and day. Oh, well.
So you had LA dreams were on the horizon.
I had LA dreams. I was like, I want to go where there are Mercedes Benzes and it's sunny all the time and it's not cold. And funny enough, I never had a Mercedes Benz until about a couple months ago.
Wow.
Because I was like, when I found out how much they were, I was like, well, who wants to spend all that money on a car? That doesn't make any sense. Then like the Bay Area in me turned, I was like, I'll get a Volvo.
They made it work. I got to get education.
I'm like, I'm used to seeing them out the window anyway. I'm like, we'll just keep doing that. No problem. I'll just look at the eye candy. No problem. So yeah, that's I think that's what made me want to go to UCLA.
Did you have to apply to a bunch of different colleges?
I did and I didn't. So you're from Cali, so you know how the UC system, Cal State system works.
Yeah.
You grew up outside of Cali.
No, I grew
or
up
you
here.
grew up here.
I'm right here down the street.
I always think because your family's from.
They're from Ohio.
Okay, but you grew up. Okay,
But I grew up here.
So you guys know how it works. Like you're from California, so you guaranteed a spot technically.
Yeah.
At 100% at Cal State ish. I don't know if there's anybody that didn't get to a Cal State, but
Shout out to my people at CSUN. I see you. No, I didn't go to CSUN.
No, but you're pretty much, if you do well in high school, you can go to Cal State.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
if you get to you're a certain percentile in your high school, you're supposed to get into a UC. Mm-hmm. So I made sure that I was in that percentile in my high school to go to a UC. As I would talk to my counselor, like, am I in the upper? And they're like, yes, Itika, stay out of here. I'm just making sure you can't ruin my life.
My entire life.
Like, everything depends on this. That's how I thought.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad, but I didn't want to go to a HBCU truth moment because I was around so many black people all my life. I was like, I don't want to be around y'all no more. I hated it. I hate to say it out loud, but I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know about.
You just wanted something new.
I just wanted to be. I wanted something different, and I had this idea of HBCUs being just like Richmond, like meaning, it was a little crabs in the barrel-ish for me. That's the other part we're not talking about, when it's just can be hard when you are kind of this smart girl and your crew is kind of like popular, and I was a cheerleader and all those other things. So you get a lot of, you get problems, you get people messing with you, picking on you, trying to kind of make your life difficult.
For sure.
And I was just, my life was kind of throughout high school, girls were trying to make it difficult. And I was like, I'm just trying to pop over here. What's the problem?
Yeah.
That's what I thought we were all trying to do. Just kind of have fun and get out. And so then I just was like, I don't know if I want to go to HBCU. So I think I'm almost certain, because it's so long ago, I'm almost certain I applied to 2 and got into both of them. But then I ended up getting into UCLA and going to UCLA. And I kind of always knew I was going to go to UCLA because that's where I wanted. That was my top choice.
And UCLA is very hard to get into.
Yes. I was the last wave of affirmative action pre-Prop 209, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a big deal when we got there to be that wave.
Wow.
Either my year or Kalia's year. But we were like the last of the like pre-Prop 209. Affirmative action is still intact. Like 100% you'll get into a UC if you write like a good, I hate to say a good, you know, your story, you know, your admittance, what do they call it? The essay.
Yeah. Your like essay, basically.
Yeah. If you write an essay that's compelling, that talks about, you know, I overcame all of these adversities and I still had good grades and I still, which I 100% am like, heck yeah, you have to take that stuff into consideration. You know, if I'm like living in Richmond, California, being raised by my grandparents, having to work all through high school to pay for like senior trips and everything like that, being the captain of the cheerleading squad in spite of all of that, and having all AP classes and graduating early, like you better let me in, is what I said.
Yeah, it's there's so many things I want to jump into on that. Like, but even with that, like wherever you are, that's very compelling. Like,
Yeah.
just to do those things on a for face value, to be that active, and just to have AP classes was like, ooh. I was in honors English, and I was like, put me back in like regular English, please. Like, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I told you about the reading.
You're like, that was a little ambitious.
Yeah, I was like, can I just go like? But so even on that, it's incredibly challenging, no matter where you are. I kind of wanted to just sidestep a little bit in terms of the adversaries growing up, because the way you've kind of framed your growing up is there's clearly a lot you've had to overcome, but it wasn't like this very dark, hard, rough life feel. You had a lot of support through your parents, through your friends. Very tight family. You were exposed to a lot of possibilities. Shout out to the Sirens. They always come when like some monumental
I
moment's
live
gonna happen.
downtown LA, like a block from the fire department. So every time people come over, and I'm like, this is it. This
Let
is
it
the
go.
soundtrack to our life.
That's right.
This is the
They're playing
soundtrack.
track 12 right now. This is
This is it. Like, you're just gonna have to deal with it. So it's fine. I can't even hear it.
Did you feel like during that time the sense of struggle? Did you battle with that internally at all?
It's so interesting. I don't think I was allowed to. My family was like, the struggle is life.
Sure.
Like, it's not, you're not special because you're sad, or because we can't afford this, or because you live here, or because, you know, it was not. Now, mind you, my family worked really hard for me to not feel the struggle. So, you know, we lived in a home. Bills were always paid. Food was always on the table. You know, we went school clothes shopping. You know, I know that there are kids that didn't get to go school clothes shopping, or didn't live in like a home, or, you know, had to move from house to house. Once I moved in with my grandparents at 10, I never moved out until college. So I lived in the same home for, you know, from 10 to 17. Bills were always paid. We had cable. We went to Costco and bought, you know, in bulk. So we just lived in a community that was struggling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we as a family, I think my family worked really, really hard.
Awesome.
They did. They worked really, really hard. So I have to give that to them because it was that, I think that's why I didn't feel it as much, because they were working so hard to make sure that, and they used to tell me all the time, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. And I would be like, what are they talking about? This whole money doesn't grow on trees thing.
Like, I know you get it from the bank. Like, I know how this shit works.
Exactly. I'm like, this is so strange. They keep saying that to me. But now as an adult, I'm like, Lordy, the fact that you guys pulled it off and,
For
you
sure.
know, is huge on
also
your
led by
salaries.
example as well.
Yeah, they did. And they figured it out. And they were very, you know, my grandfather wore like the same jumpsuit every single day. And I'm like, okay, there's that. You saved on clothes. He drove like the same car it was like an old school Cadillac, not on purpose because he didn't buy, you know, new cars. But that extra money, they have bought their home, you know, way back when. So there was no, you know, they paid taxes or whatever. So they didn't have to. So there were just things that they were able to kind of figure out early on. And then the rest they lived kind of lean, and then the rest went into us. And then obviously, let's not forget that I was raised by my grandparents. So then there's like my mom wasn't there, and my father was, every other weekend, which was awesome for him because he showed up very, very, very consistently, like 100%. So there was so much, but I just wasn't allowed. Like there wasn't any conversations like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Like it wasn't like that. It was like,
because it's like almost on paper, you can pull many excuses of why someone like you on a parallel path could fall into many different negative scenarios.
For sure.
Right.
Like there's like the check marks, the boxes, like, okay, divorced parent living, boom, boom, boom. Like pull those cards and find a reason for why they didn't achieve or why they didn't overcome something.
and I think that would be fair to them.
Sure.
I think for me,
Yeah, no even judgment
and that's
on
why
that.
it's also like nature versus nurture, right?
Absolutely.
Like, were you born into this thing of who you are and where you are and who you're becoming, or did you did your upbringing and the people around you and all of that? So I think it was like a lot of nurture, but also a lot of nature. I think just as far as I can remember, I just was very clear and I wasn't easily distracted.
Yeah.
I think I'm more easily distracted today, but I think I also know I can afford to be easily distracted. Like
For sure.
I could be ish distracted, but then it was like no distractions allowed.
I think it's imperative, like, to set the foundation as kids to really have parents or grandparents or family that really lays down the value guidelines. Not
Yeah.
necessarily like there's a difference between being strict and overbearing.
Yes.
But then there's also like, this is my house, this is my rules, this is what you're gonna do to live within the confines.
Yes.
And naturally, there's different areas where freedoms may not be as readily available to others, just being like the community and the dangers within them and whatnot. But I feel like it's truly a blessing to have present parents or present figures that really give you structure and value as to like what is okay
Yes.
and what is not. Because naturally, as kids, we're going to kind of like dip and dabble between them or just be scared shitless of it and just be like, oh, well, you know what? That's not doing that. But it really sets a tone
Yeah.
for somebody to just like knowing what right and wrong is and being able to make the decision yourself.
But that's also, that's not a guarantee too.
for sure.
Because now as an adult, I've seen people parent, and now I can see my friends' parents from another vantage point as another adult, and I'm like, oh my God, like you were dealt like a different hand. And I didn't know that. Like I thought everybody's parents were kind of pouring into them the way that mine were into me, and like really giving these jewels. It was every day was like a life lesson to be learned, and and everybody's parents weren't having those conversations or weren't even in the house.
Yeah.
If they were younger or if they were, had to work at night or, who knows. So there were a lot of things that kind of worked in my favor for sure.
Yeah. It's wild because like I even think back to my parents and like they used to always explicitly tell me like, just focus on your grades. We don't care what you really do. Like just get good grades. But then they also tell me what right and wrong is and literally take me through the look. You're going to experience certain things.
Yeah.
That's fine. But always remember what your values are. So like, I feel like it mind fucked me in a way where I was just like, oh, yeah, like
What are my values?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Cats bring the drugs out, and my mom's like, look. Like, in that middle school time, my mom was literally like, look, I know that there's going to be weed and these things coming around.
But what are your values?
No, she literally was like this, though. She was like, look, if you're going to do it, I want the first time to be with me.
Oh, yeah.
You let me know.
Yeah.
I'll get it for you.
Yeah,
And just
okay.
do it in the comfort of home. But that just made it so uncool. I was like, no, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Drug what?
That's so funny because I had friends like that, and I was like, yo, the fuck are your parents? I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Your parents are like the coolest people on earth. I had friends like that. I remember them, and I just thought it was so crazy because my parents were like, if I catch you smoking weed,
Yeah.
your ass
But like,
is grass.
look, there's a real
But
balance.
I think it's an approach. It doesn't mean
For sure.
one approach is right or it's whatever is effective.
Because almost
but
every,
I used to think
every
that was
girl
like
I knew that like whose father was like, you're not having a boyfriend at all until you're 18. Was like literally the first one, just like getting down in like the sixth grade, like the fifth grade.
Oh, not
Like
the sixth grade.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how rebellious they were.
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
But like you think of someone being like, look, this is the right and wrong of these things. It's gonna happen. You're gonna make the choice.
Well, I have to say, I dated a guy forever who my parents and grandparents totally were opposed to. And I don't want to say that if they liked him, I would have not dated him. But it was definitely a like, oh, they don't like him. Like, it was definitely like made it a little more titillating.
For sure.
Tantalizing.
For sure.
Like this. That happens. That happens.
Absolutely.
That happens. That happens.
We live and we learn.
Ugh, Jesus. It was a long lesson. long
lesson, and I learned.
And I learned.
Definitely
I
learned.
learned. Oh, Lord, I learned. Please, Jesus, no, I learned.
So you get into UCLA.
Yes.
First of all, what was that feeling like? Were you, oh my God, I got into UCLA? Or was like, nope, I knew this was going to happen.
God. It was so weird because I actually got into Cal Berkeley before I got into UCLA.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, fuck. I don't want to go to Cal. And I was being pressured by my family to go to Cal because they didn't want me to go to LA. So my mom's family. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get into UCLA. And truth moment, I got in as a winter Bruin. I was like, oh my God, I got in the winter Bruin.
Oh, wow.
So I got into Cal as like, welcome freshman boy. And then I got into UCLA as a winter Bruin. I was like, oh my God. I was like, how's this going to work? So basically I got acceptance to UCLA as a winter Bruin. I was told I could go to FSP, which is a freshman summer program, and basically pay for my classes as, you know, in the fall, and then officially be like a winter Bruin, but I could still stay in the dorms. It was something.
And that's because you start in January, right?
Because I started in January. So basically my feeling was just, I was focused. I was like, okay, I got to go to this. I got to do this. So I didn't have time to be excited because
You just had to start planning.
I had to plan to officially be at UCLA,
And
and
make
I
it
didn't
work.
want to be a winter. I knew well enough to know I couldn't start in the winter because then everybody had already joined their cliques and had made their friends, and I was gonna be like,
orientation happened.
the orientation happened like, oh, who's a new girl? Like, I did not, no. I grew up in Richmond. I knew what that was like. You got to get in early and strong. Everybody got to know your name day one. So my feeling was like I had to conquer a few things. So that's what it was. I went to FSP, where I met L'Oreal. Right? She went to FSP, 100%. And all the other people, I had my classes set up for the fall. Like I never was a winter Bruin. And then, so I was just focused on that. That's really what it was. And then like feeling the disappointment of my family because I said no to Cal. And it was like a huge blow to everyone. Like huge. Because my grandfather's father fell off of a scaffolding when he was like building one of the buildings in UC Berkeley. So my grandfather wanted like everyone to go to UC Berkeley. So my uncle went, my aunt went, and for me not to go, he felt like it was a big like affront to the family. Like, oh, you're just turning your backs on us and the legacy, and my father died falling from this thing, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. So it was like bittersweet for me because I felt that and I knew that, and
How'd you have the courage to not go there?
Because I wanted to get out of Richmond.
Yeah, that was just such a driving force.
Yes, I felt like
yeah.
UC Berkeley was too close. I felt like it was too close to the familiarity of Richmond. I did. And Richmond it raised me, I have to say, 100%. Like, raised me. I would not be the person I am today. But I just knew I needed to break away.
From home.
I did. I knew that 100%. I was like, I'm not sure if I stay close, I'm going to fully develop into my person.
Absolutely. There's a level of growth like when you're away from home that takes place.
Yeah, 100%. But it's hard when you have that much family pressure.
For sure.
Like sometimes you're like, man, I'm not gonna, it's very easy to slide into that too.
Yeah.
But that's also when you kind of hit that divide of like, do I want to build my own life and make my own decisions, or am I going to be bound by somebody else's wants and needs to like appease them?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very like critical moment. That was a very critical moment for you.
It really was.
Even though it was like planned in your head.
It didn't feel like a hard choice at all. But when I think about it, I would not be me if I would have stayed. I would not have, whoever I am today, like the Itika that you know, she would have stayed, and the other Itika, whoever she is, would have stayed. This Itika would have made the choice I made if given 10,000 chances to make a different choice. She would have made the choice I made every time. So I'm like very clear about that choice, like super as clear as the day I made it, even though it came with all this other stuff. It was never like, I never wavered.
Got you.
So when you came down to LA, it's weird because it's like it's a stressful time, trying to dodge the winter brewingness.
I was dodging
Like,
too.
LA, we here, but I'm not supposed to be here for another 6 months, but I'm here.
I am here, y'all.
Strong and early,
You had no idea. I am here. She's here. I was there.
What were those first kind of those first couple months like, or weeks like, of embracing the city and being a part of, it's not just being in LA, but breaking free and stepping into this new kind of thing that you've dreamed about for so long?
It was awesome. I mean, college was awesome. Now, I have to say, I started college with this incredible group of people. I mean, even like the basketball players that started with us who came to FSP, like Baron Davis, Earl Watson, like that group. And the girls, that I met, and just in the non-athlete guys,
Don't forget them.
I know. Well, I say that to say.
Oh, you guys under 5'8"? Hello.
You guys are funny. No, I say that to say because when you're 17 and you're like you're in the same class as Baron Davis, you're just like, he's just some kid. You know what I mean? And then you're like 20 years later and you're like, oh my, look, ain't that something else? You know what I mean? Like you're like, but you have to take a second and be like, that was kind of dope what you did from there to now. You know what I mean? And then the non-athletes did a very similar thing. Some of them are heads of studios and doing just amazing things. But unfortunately, they don't have the same name recognition. Fortunately, unfortunately, however that works. Sure. But it's the same. I've seen that.
For sure.
So I say that to say I started with this group of incredible, smart, talented, FSP was for minorities, minority kids. And we were all just super excited and eager and happy to be at UCLA and young. But like we were there. It was pretty interesting. I don't think I had quite landed on who I was yet, because I was just like fresh out of Richmond and I was not as self-aware. So I just was kind of observing, and I think kind of participating in things that made me feel like a sense of community. I was really trying to find a sense of community because I really didn't keep in touch with my girlfriends from high school or my guy friends from high school, and I really wasn't close to my family because of the choice I made. Sure. So I was really just looking for a sense of community. What was that like? Was that hard? It was actually not hard. It's like, nope, no. And let me tell you why. And this is a testament to the UC system. So there are programs in place to make minority students feel at home at places like UCLA where there are so few of them. So one of them is the CPO, which is it's like Community Programs Office. So it's an entire office, and like by office, it's like a building that is built for minority students. So they have like Mecha Calmecac there, the African Student Union, all of these organizations that you come to, and they're like, we're your family. We'll help you. We'll help you pick your classes. We'll help you pick your dorm. Wow. We'll help you everything. And so immediately that's where we all went, because they basically came to us and we all joined the African Student Union and just different social organizations that were built specifically for minority students to build retention. And they told us that. They're like, look, you're here. Some of y'all ain't gonna stay. Some of y'all ain't gonna graduate. We're here to hopefully help 100% retention. If we get this percent, we're happy. So that came almost immediately. So that wasn't hard to find. They found us, and I give props to those organizations that do sit at these college campuses for, you know, students that aren't represented as much and might feel like, oh my God, I'm one of 500 in a 10,000, you know, student class or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the numbers were, but they weren't very high. You
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah.
Specifically for black men that weren't athletes too, like, you know, props to those guys. So that was where I found my community, and it happened almost immediately. And then I was like, okay, I'm in the building and I'm staying.
Mama.
College is it can be such a pivotal moment for so many people, because it's like you're for the first time free, you know, and you get to define that. You can start over if you want. Sometimes, you know, you don't carry your identity from the person you were in high school to college. You know,
Right.
sometimes you can be a different person in high school, but just the reputation that you have for so many years for people that knew you, you can't escape it.
Right.
Coming into LA, and I want to take it here because education has been such the focus
Yes.
solely.
Yeah.
Like, we got through page 1. We went to page 2.
Who that?
and it's blank.
I can't.
And it's blank.
I can't.
What was going through your mind after you kind of acclimated, got your, you know, within the community, built your friendships, and kind of really built your foundation at UCLA? What were your thoughts, and I guess more in terms of aspirations of going through college now? Because it's a time where, like, you have the people that are like, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Right.
And that's it. And
Right.
you come in freshman year, you're like, all right, man.
yes.
Bail me out in 10 years.
Exactly.
But, you know, and people can be really focused, or you can be free and test the waters. Did you start to jump into that side of yourself?
It's so funny. So this is a conversation I would have with my younger self. I wanted to be a lawyer. Why did I want to be a lawyer? Because my grandmother watched Perry Mason. Period.
Wow.
There was no other reason.
I see. My dad used to watch that all the fucking time.
Perry Mason.
All the fucking
Okay.
time, bro. Black and white on Thug. Like,
Perry
yes.
Mason. Okay, that was it.
Which went to Law and Order later. But like, I feel,
Perry Mason was no
I feel
Law and
you
Order. Okay, it
all
was
the fucking time,
Perry
bro.
Mason.
Shout out to Perry Mason.
Shout out to Perry Mason.
Your
May he
Honor.
rest. May he rest.
Oh, wow.
Lord. So that was it. I wanted to be a lawyer, but it was because my grandmother watched Perry Mason. So I was on this lawyer track. And I was in political science major, because that's what you're supposed to major in if you want to be
Yeah.
an attorney. And that was it. And then my junior year, I was like, I should maybe go to the law office. See what it's like.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Smart move.
It took 3 years. I had never set foot in a law office in my life, y'all.
He'd be like, well, he kind of cool. Perry hold it down.
I still had those Perry Mason thoughts. I was like, Perry Mason, you dig. Like, that's what.
Feel you, though.
I was like, there's no real reason that I need to do any other research.
That was it. You saw
And
it
thank
all.
God you did.
You saw it all.
It's so funny to even talk about it, because it's like, these are my inward thoughts when I'm like driving down the street sometimes. Like, you had your whole life set on Perry Mason? Like, who does that? Like, who does that? Like, what were you thinking?
I feel you.
But it was all about, it was all
Shout
on
out to
Perry
Perry
Mason.
Mason.
Like,
Maybe I should go into one of these buildings to make sure it's the exact same thing of what I've been seeing.
it's Perry Mason.
With the hella, like, explicitly implicit influence. You know what I'm saying?
But I tell you. So one day I decided, as a junior in college, that I should probably check out a law office. So I was like, well, shit, how do I go get into one? So I was like, maybe I'll like get a job, because I'm always trying to get a little money, you know. I was like, I'll get a job as a paralegal's assistant, because I knew that was it. That's entry level.
For sure.
So I was like, well, I want to be at a law office. It's probably going to be fun. So I got hired as a paralegal's assistant at this law office in the Harry Flint building. Is it Harry Flint? Larry Flint? Harry Flint?
Larry Flint.
Larry Flint.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. Larry Flint, law office, paralegal assistant.
We on.
I was like, she ready. So I show up and I was like, ugh.
I wish I could see your face. I wish I could see your face. Like when you're at the door about to walk in. Like we're ready.
Background music playing in your mind. It's like
I was turned up, and then it was like,
and the door's open.
I was like, ooh. I was like, what is going on? Like, is this? Am I in the right building? So the
This is Susan,
paralegal,
the secretary that's been there for like 96 years.
exactly.
yo.
So the paralegal who I was assisting, I hate to say this, but she had like this really bad haircut. Like she went to like Supercuts.
I feel you.
And I was like, that cannot be my life. Supercuts cannot be my life. And then she was like, go get this file, go get that file. And I'm like, oh my God, this all we do is get files? And then I was like, I can't.
He's like, when do we start doing law? Like, are we going to the court?
Right.
Is Perry Mason here?
Right. And then this is the clinger. All the lawyers, all the attorneys were older white men. And I was like, these cannot be my coworkers. I was like, this is not like, because you hear about your colleagues, like, oh, me and my colleagues did this, and me and my colleagues did that. And I was like, oh my God.
After our meeting, I went to another meeting and then a dinner meeting with my colleagues.
I was like, gosh, I have to hang out with these guys. So then I envisioned myself hanging out with these guys. And I was like, that probably is not going to be fun. But I was like, it's okay. Because what I did hear was they were going to all these basketball games. I was like, well, that part is fun. So they're like, okay, such and such Susan, the paralegal, like, we're going to go to this game, that game. I was like, oh, they go to basketball games, so that's
Of course,
fun.
her name is Susan.
Yo, shout out to Susan.
But then they had a holiday party, and it was whack. It was like this whack holiday party. And I was like, this can't be my life. I was like, I can't. And I learned this in like a month. I was like, I can't have like a Supercuts homegirl and like
God.
only all like middle-aged white men colleagues. And I can't have like a whack holiday. Like this could not be my life. Yeah. So in that moment, I told the guy that I was dating at the time, I was like, I don't think I want to be an attorney. And he went in on me. He was like, I knew it. He was like, you ain't made to be an attorney anyway. You ain't built for it. Like, so then he started telling me all the things about me that were
I'm glad you brought
non-attorney.
this up because I'm waiting.
And then he just went
He's
in.
like, oh shit, word? All right, hold on. He brings a speech out.
He was ready.
I was waiting for this moment.
He was ready. So he told me all the things about me that were like non-attorney.
He's like, wait, did you say that? Hold on.
Yes.
I had this ready.
Yes.
My list for the lack of attorney.
Yes. So, and then he started telling me he knew girls who were pre-law or about to be attorneys, and the things about them that made them
Yo.
good potential attorneys, and the things about me.
This motherfucker brought the bazooka out for no reason.
He's like, hold on, I got something in my closet. I gotta get this.
He's like, damn, it took you this long? Hold
Yes,
on.
yes. And he just laid it on me. So between like the bad experience in the law office and then my dude at the time basically
Hell
like
no.
double downing on why
Oh,
I was
man.
not fit to be an attorney, I was like, okay, I guess I'll be an attorney after all.
He gave the I'll kill a dream speech. You know what I'm
Pretty
saying? He
much.
did not give a I have one. He was
I
like, let me
killed
just
it.
obliterate this dream.
He killed it, y'all.
You know
I
what's
wish-
hella crazy about law, though? And shout out to all the lawyers, but I always wanted to be a lawyer coming up as a kid.
Yeah.
My grandfather was an attorney. I used to watch like Law and Order, all that.
You just got to pull yourself together.
For real. But yo, every lawyer I've ever spoken to, I swear to God, every lawyer I've ever spoken to is like, bro, don't do it.
Yeah.
Every single fucking one.
Yeah.
There hasn't been one lawyer that's like, yeah, bro, I love my job. Like, but it's every single one's like, don't do
Yeah.
it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's happened as adulthood. So now I'm like, the only thing I will say, lawyers, I know some lawyers who make really good salaries, and I'm like,
Yeah, but they're also putting in fucking like 500 billable hours a
there's
week.
that. Because I'm like,
And
I
they don't
can't,
exist.
I'm like, I can barely read like 5 pages that are like lightweight. I mean, I'm in a book club and I'm still struggling. I'm like, oh my God, these girls are trying to read this book and it's like interesting. It's nonfiction or it's fiction or whatever the funner thing to read is. But yeah, so basically those two experiences taught me that I was not going to be an attorney.
For sure.
Was that like how I discovered, or that was like, was that the initial question? We just kind of
I don't
veered
know,
off.
but we're here.
We're here.
Yeah.
But it's also a beauty in when it comes to careers and wishes and wants.
Yeah.
Like in being able to dabble within, I guess, the fields that one has interest in. Like shout out to like internships and all these types of things.
Yes.
Because
Totally.
even nowadays, I feel like so many people have their mindset on a career path.
Yeah.
They have no fucking clue what it really entails.
Yeah.
Like what we, and even in today's day and age, what we see in entrepreneurship and fucking like all these other like, thought leaders and go get it and what the fuck are you doing? The thought of a lot of things is incredible.
Yes.
But you have to at least experience them. And I feel like so many people have such a rigid, like, okay, I need to do this to get to where I want to go down there. And it's such a linear path.
Yeah.
Whereas, let me try this, that, the other, this. And instead of looking at that as scatterbrained, it's just like, let's find out where our passions lie.
Exactly.
Or let's find out where our interests lie. Because, like, you, thankfully,
Thank God.
took the step to be like, let me roll up into this law office
Oh
and
my
see
God.
what it's about. And you walked up in it, Susan,
I was like,
looking all crazy.
I tell you, I still remember her little supercuts, little side thing that was just like,
Susan brought her rollers in the supercuts and
I
just
was-
like had it on heat.
I was like, this is not for me. It was totally different than what I thought working in the law office would be like, essentially. So
But that's a great testament to you have to experience something
you have to
know if you like it or you don't.
Yeah.
The thought of things is a lot more like unicorns flying than the actual experience.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So many cats want to be bankers and do like iBanking and all this shit. But when they're working 150 hours a fucking week and they're like sleeping under the desk in their office and getting berated on a daily basis, they may have money to go out to the club and blow it, but they're literally like living a non-existent lifestyle. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, some cats want that. They see that as the greater good, and they're willing to be hazed for 3 years in the process.
And for some, it's a good fit.
For sure.
So I could have been
But
in
you
that.
have to find out.
You have to
That's
find
the
out.
biggest, like,
You have to find
You have
out.
to put your foot on the ground somewhere.
Yes, you have to find out. So for me, I could have walked in there and it could have been a different situation. I could have been like, oh my gosh, Susan's awesome. She's so supportive. I go get her files. She says thank you. Like, but I was just
For
like,
sure.
this nothing about it felt right. It didn't
Right.
feel
Right.
like a good fit. It was not a comfortable moment for me.
It was a blessing in disguise.
Oh, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
It was like
I feel that.
God was like real quick.
Shout out
Yeah, I mean, it happened in junior year. That's
Yeah.
when you kind of start deciding
for sure.
where things get serious, which is so ridiculous in the schooling system. Of
Yeah.
like, the pressure's on to figure out what you want to do the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like that thing weighs on your young ass mind.
Like, we're so
It's
trained to think about the rest of our lives
It's so
there.
crazy. It's so
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's also, it's an institution.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So they're like, we got business to take care of. So we don't have
Absolutely.
time to have you over here confused.
right. No, it's true.
Like,
what's your major?
pick a major.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe pick a minor if you a little confused, and you have up until here to change your major, your minor. But yeah, it's an institution. They're trying to get things done and trying to roll out the next, group of young undergrads, young co-eds.
So
yeah.
when you're when the Perry Mason games were crushed,
They were
when the channel
crushed.
turned off.
They were crushed.
when they pulled the plug,
They pulled the plug on Perry Mason.
when it was canceled,
Your Honor.
what was your pivot at that point?
So at that point, I had been a political science major, and I liked poli-sci, and I was really involved in the African Student Union, and I liked, I was into like race and politics. My family was very like, my family, they were activists essentially. Like my mother, my grandparents, they were all activists. Like they talked about Huey P. Newton. I think I went to one of like the Black Panthers funerals at a very young age,
wow.
but I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure I did. But they were just very, being from the Bay, those were just conversations that were had. So I knew that those things interest me. So I'm like, politics interests me and race interests me. And I started talking to my professors. And I was like, look, I'm a political science major. I don't think I want to be an attorney. I don't want to be a lawyer. Like, what are my options? And they were like, well, you can be an academic. They said you can get a PhD in political science. You can study. You're interested in race. You're interested in politics. Like, you can study that. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. It sounded super cool. So I ended up getting a fellowship, a Ralph Bunche fellowship, and going to University of Virginia for the summer before my senior year. And through that fellowship, I was able to apply to PhD programs at different universities all over the country. And one of them was University of Chicago. And very similar to my Winthrop Bruin experience. I did not get accepted into the PhD program, but I did get accepted into the master's program at University of Chicago. So then I ended up going to get my master's from University of Chicago in social sciences with the promise, if you will, to then go into the PhD program at University of Chicago.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How'd you feel? How'd you feel about that direction? Was it inspiring for you?
It was dope. I was like, hell yeah. Like, I would rather be hanging out with these guys. Because when I went to the Ralph Bunche Fellowship, I was with other minority students who studied race and politics, but they were all turned. Like, it was like a summer. It was like the turn up summer. It was like FSP all over again. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much. Like, and we were in Virginia, and I was in a college town for the first time because UCLA is not in a college
town. It's a commuter town, for sure.
So I was in Charlottesville living, and it was just, I loved it. I loved it. So I was here for it. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to be here amongst this group of students. It was a small group. It was like 30 of us. I was supposed to meet all these recruiters. I was meeting recruiters from, Rice, Brown, University of Chicago, Columbia, schools that I had never even heard of, being from California. And it was life-changing.
Why'd you pick why Chicago?
I picked University of Chicago because there was a professor there. His Professor Dawson, who was doing a lot of work that I was very interested in, like race and politics work. And so I was told that if I went to University of Chicago, I would work under him and go take his classes and things like that. That's what I did. So I was like, okay, that's the one. I just really loved what I read that he wrote and just his teachings. And I was really inspired by him.
That's awesome because Chicago is very different from LA.
So different.
Yeah. I mean, weather and everything, and with just like the city itself, just the pulse of it, all of it.
Yeah, so different. But it was so interesting because the weather never intimidated me. The weather in Chicago never intimidated me until I got there. And I felt it. And I was like,
and you felt that wind.
I felt it. Yeah. I was told.
In your bones.
I was told, and I was like, it's fine. Yeah. You cover up. But I felt it. I felt that weather, and that was life-changing. But yeah, I went to University of Chicago.
Now, going to Chicago, because I know this is we're getting into a very interesting chapter in your life. Actually, I told you I thought you were from Chicago.
Yes, most people do think I'm from Chicago.
Yeah, and it seems like, comparing Chicago to LA, it seems now you have a lot more purpose, where the page was kind of blank when you went to UCLA.
Oh, that's a good analogy, yeah.
Now it's like, okay.
No, remember, I wanted to be Perry Mason when I went to UCLA.
Right. Yeah. Right, exactly. It was
TV show blank. It was super blank. It was as blank as it gets. Exactly. She wanted to be Captain America when she went to UCLA.
Right, yeah. Like, that's what happens. You go to college and you become a superhero.
You become a superhero, yes.
But now kind of getting into, you've experienced a lot up until this point that I also don't want to that I want to emphasize too. Yeah. Of, being away from your family, creating your own identity, finding a purpose, finding something you feel right about, something that drives you a little bit, you know, and something to look forward to, because up until this point, it's been, I just need to get out of Richmond. Yeah. But now you have something that really is inspiring you.
Yes.
Inspiring your thoughts.
Yes.
The way you want to think about life, the things you want to start getting into. And for most people, it's kind of late.
It's kind of late.
You know?
Really?
I think so because
Sheesh.
no,
Tell
think about
me.
it. A lot of people. I say that not as like
No.
a dig.
I'm interested.
Yeah,
in
just
hearing
because
it.
most people try to like get that done in their undergrad.
This
and, like,
this dude brought out the note paper, like, reading off the list. No.
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 I
Shit,
think
dude,
that's-
I was the 8-year college student. Talk about late. I graduated at like 26. Like
and you judging me.
undergrad.
And you judging me.
No,
Okay.
No, but I'm just saying it's interesting in the way your journey is.
Well, I was
is gone.
21 when I graduated college.
Right. It's still very early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt. Maybe it was late. Okay, let's talk about that.
No,
okay.
I don't mean late. It's just it's more cool to know that this part of you started coming out as you're getting your master's and
Yeah.
with a PhD in mind.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
a lot of people, including
wanna get
myself, is like undergrad and I'm out. If
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know? The master's ain't even. Like, what? I gotta still be in school.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And they're trying to just get out and get a job.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see this blossoming starting to happen with you as you're entering this, very kind of pivotal time in your
Right.
life in Chicago. Get into a little about Chicago and kind of how it started to shape what you were doing with not only your studies, but the future that was going to become.
Gosh, when I got to Chicago, I was very intimidated because I was with like some of the smartest intellects, in the country. And I knew that. And I was like, I'm not an intellect. I'm not, and everyone called each other academics. Like, you're an academic. And I'm like, I'm not an academic. And they're like, yes, you are. And I didn't feel like it. And one thing that a lot of people did there was like they theorized everything and they used words. They would even make up words like to make a point. And I remember being in anthropology and I was like taking notes and I was reading my notes and I'm like, are these words? Like, I know he said that. Like, they're like, these are like, are these real words? Like,
Welcome
is this
to the Mama We Made It podcast folio.
I'm like, is this a word? Like, I'm like, how can I make sense of any of it? I'm Google, like, dictionary, encyclopedia. Like, is this a word? Like, it was hard to follow because it was so.
Are we in a book?
Yeah, like it was hard to follow, and I just didn't feel like I was cut from the same cloth.
Why?
It wasn't that I didn't feel like I was as smart. I just felt like I wasn't here to just theorize with a bunch of other.
It was foreign.
Yeah, I wasn't just here to just theorize with a bunch of intellects or academics or talk, what I thought in this. It was just too much. It was too much talking. It was too many words that I didn't know. It was like, I don't know how to explain it.
You felt a little disconnected.
I felt disconnected. I felt like, okay.
I feel like, again, it's like the foot on the ground type scenario.
Yeah.
The thought of academia.
The thought of
The
academia.
thought of a higher level of education with these types of thespians.
Thespians.
Of the miraculous world. No, but like, I feel you.
Yeah, and
like
then when I got there,
you came in like with high hopes. You got in there. You're like, oh wait, hold on. This is what this is.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, I also like to turn up. So I was like, well, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, there's no time to turn up. Like, you're studying. You have a 25-page paper due in 2 days by 3 different professors for 5 different topics. Like,
wild.
It was crazy. So then it's like I was kind of in like a slave to this system for the entire master's program. And I didn't like that. I was like, I have no outlet. They're like, you go to, I don't know.
You want an outlet?
You can go to your professor's house and hang out, and very seriously.
Talk about theorizing.
And that's what, a lot of people.
Magnanimous.
A lot of people did that and enjoyed it, but it was like you just didn't have the time. There was just no time. It was, you just studied and produced and thought and read and wrote and I was like, okay, I don't want to just do this. This is too much of just like I will lose myself in this.
What did you want to do?
So I didn't know. But one thing I did know was that I loved Oprah. and Oprah was in Chicago, and I needed an out from University of Chicago because it was too much. So I talked to one of my professors, and he was like, or she, I don't know which one. They were like, you could do an internship and get credit for it. You basically have to write like a 25-page paper about your internship. I was like, okay. So, all right, I'll get an internship because that'll get me out of this university setting, and I'll be around other people, and I can get an internship in whatever I want to get an internship in as long as I write a 25-page paper. They're like, yes.
It reminds me of you trying to get out of Richmond.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the
My
repeat
escape
happening.
route. So I'm like, well, Oprah's here. Maybe I can intern with Oprah. It was my thought. And this is pre-internet. So I called and I was like, hey, do you guys have interns? And they're like, yeah, we actually do. And I was like, well, I'm a student at University of Chicago. I'd love to intern with you if you will have me. So they asked me to fax my resume.
Because there's no email. I just
Oh my God, I'm so
Stop that.
I can't.
Stop that.
Get your fax.
Stop that.
Get your facsimile.
Fax that damn paper. Stop.
Get your dial-up.
Which means they're like, you have to have access to a fax machine. Which is like,
Was there a dial-up? Was it dial-up fax machine?
For sure.
Now you like fax from your phone. I'm like, oh my God.
fax assist. Yeah, unreal.
So I faxed my resume to the Oprah Winfrey Show. I got a call. They said I could come in for an interview. By the time I got home, because I didn't have a cell phone, they had left a message on my home phone that I had gotten the internship.
Hey.
Just to give it,
That's wild.
It's a true story.
That's incredible.
It's a true story. And I took the bus and the train and everything in a tweed suit in the dead of winter in Chicago from University of Chicago.
I want to.
And
talk
this
a
is
little
coming
bit-
from somebody that did not like the cold and the doldrums of it.
Yes.
And ended up in grad school in one of the areas that's fucking freezing cold.
Yes.
Now, was you say you like Oprah? How big of an influence, or were you watching her show all the time, or like?
So I had a summer at my dad's house. My dad moved to Fresno for whatever reason in a one cow town. He actually moved to Madera, which is 20 minutes outside of Fresno. He lived in a one cow town. And I spent a summer in college. Some summer I spent at my dad's house. And I watched Oprah every day. I watched Ayanna Vasan.
Right after
It was
Perry
like
Mason.
right after Perry Mason. But that was the highlight of my day. Oprah comes on at 2. That was it. Whatever happened before 2, whatever happened after 2 didn't matter. But I knew that Oprah came on at 2. And so I watched her for a whole summer. And it was the summer where Ayanna Vasan was introduced to the world. And I would just cry like a baby. Because Ayanna was, she was breaking it down.
For sure.
I think this was before Beloved. Now she says Beloved all the time. I don't know if she said Beloved then. But she was just breaking it down. She was fixing lives before there was Ayanna Fix My Life. And it just made me love her. And then I loved Oprah for introducing Ayanna to the world. So that's kind of what I think introduced me to Oprah.
Straight queen level.
I was here for it.
I respect that.
I was here for it. And then I'm in Chicago and I'm like, oh my God, I have this opportunity to work with Oprah.
And it's really the one opportunity you went for, and that's what's so cool. It's not like, all right, let me throw my resume, let me fax my resume out.
There's a story. So
Okay.
I was telling this guy I was dating at the time, the same one that told me I could not be an attorney, that I was going to apply for a job with Ebony. And he was like, what's wrong with you? Why would you apply for a job with Ebony when you have Oprah? Yeah. So he's shading, no shade to Ebony, but he helped me kind of direct, to Oprah. But then I was like, I don't know. So then I applied to an internship with Fox, and I got it. So then I'm like, how do I tell Fox? I got Fox and Oprah. So I'm like, how do I tell Fox that I'm going to take the Oprah job? I didn't know how to tell this woman because I had already met with her. She had given me the internship. So I sent her a fax saying...
I can't wait to see what this fax is. I can't wait to see.
Shout out to the faxes.
I sent her a fax saying that I wasn't going to be able to take the position after all because I had gotten another internship opportunity. Do you know this woman called me?
Stop.
It changed my life. she said, Itika, I understand that you got another internship that you want to take. She's like, but we met and you accepted my offer. She's like, and the fact that you sent me basically a rejection letter via fax, she's like, it really is bothersome. She's like, and you next time you want to, tell someone that you're not going to take a position, you should say it in person or call them. She's like, because you do not want to burn any bridges. Mm-hmm. And that changed it changed everything. Like, I think about burning bridges all the time. I think about it all the time. Whoever she is, she worked for Fox, African-American woman in Chicago. I forget her name. But when she told me, to do this thing so that I wouldn't burn bridges, it like so resonated with me.
That's a power lesson right there.
Yeah. She's like,
Big
you don't want to
time.
burn any bridges. So then I started working at Oprah and, she wasn't that was it.
What was that experience like?
My internship at Oprah was life-changing because I had, for the first time, I was working somewhere where I was enjoying myself. I was like, I love this. Like, I love where I work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was an intern, but I was doing work. I was like, I would love where I work. And I was looking around and everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. Like, everyone seemed happy. Everyone looked different. It was a multicultural building. It felt very multicultural. I don't know if everybody felt that way, but it felt like that to me. It was diverse. It was, there were, people who were gay, lesbian. It was just such a melting pot of people. And it made me feel so comfortable. And maybe because I come from the Bay Area and I'm used to like diversity.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never seen this before in the workplace. Like, I saw it at school, but I didn't see it in a work environment. So I was like, this is dope. And then everybody was like on point. Like, they were just on point. You could just tell. They were like the Mercedes-Benz that I would see driving in LA. They were just the Mercedes-Benz of human beings. They were just all.
That's incredible. I love that. Yeah.
They were just all on point. So I was like, I like this and I could probably stay a while. That's how I felt.
Awesome.
Yeah. I was like, they're going to have to kick me out of here. I liked it. I liked it.
And what's cool is, as an intern, you're just soaking up everything, but the work you're actually doing is just like whatever. But it's a testament to how important the environment you're in is in the workplace can sometimes be way more important than the actual work you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, because think about it, bro. Like, you're almost at your job more than you are at home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to me, like, I tell this to my sister. I have a younger sister who is a very diligent worker. She's I just know her. She's that girl who's never taking days off, never taking sick days, never taking vacation, but still dealing with like corporate America.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I tell her, I was like, don't let these people fuck with you. I was like, don't do it. You wake up every day, you come there, you give them all you have. Like, do not let them fuck with you.
For sure.
You know what time it is.
Yeah.
Like, stand up for yourself, represent yourself. You're not a slacker. You give it your all. You have 2 children at home and a husband. Like, so I feel like with work too, some people, they definitely take, in some instances, their employees for granted. Mm-hmm. And, you really have to stand up for yourself in the workplace. But I say that to say, I didn't feel any of those things when I was interning at the Oprah show. I felt it was just like, Candyland. That's what it felt like.
Absolutely.
When you say you could stay there a while, in your mind, what did that really mean? I mean, other than just like, I'm hanging out for a while. Like, did you see a future there in some way post college? Like, were you because you're still going to school at the time, right? I
did. Yeah. I could see my future there post college, but I did not want to stay in Chicago. So there was that for me was it was hard for me because I didn't want to stay in Chicago. I was like, I love working, I love interning at the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yeah.
And I had a very good feeling they would offer me a job, but I did not want to stay in Chicago. And inevitably that's what happened. I left Chicago and they were like, we would have offered you a job, but I left Chicago because I was like, I can't take it. The cold.
How long were you there?
My internship wasn't long. It was probably 6 months. like 6 months.
But it had a big impact on you.
Huge, because I ended up going back to work full time and then stayed for longer.
Really?
Yeah. So I left Chicago. I did some traveling. I moved to, where did I move from? I moved to New York, and then I moved back to LA. And then when I was in LA, I got a call from the Oprah Winfrey Show, and they're like, "We have a position we think you would be great for. Would you consider moving back?"
Oh, wow.
And I was in LA, I have to say. I had a small video girl stint. So I was in LA.
I love it. Oprah, I could see myself a future here. I can't deal with Chicago. There's this video girl opportunity. I have to take it.
Listen, I was in LA. I was a hostess. I worked in the newsroom with Peter Jennings, and I was doing like videos on the side to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Wow. And
It's a true story. And then the Oprah Show called.
Let me ask you this. So this is like post.
This is I have a master's from
you have a
University of
master's
Chicago.
as an academic.
As an academic.
Like the smartest person on the planet is going to be in this video.
Yeah, I'm going to be in this video.
Not to knock video people.
I
sure
never
you're very
twerked
smart,
though. I have to say.
I kind of want to know.
That was pre-twerking. I was
respect
a
that.
pre-twerk. I was a pre-twerk video girl.
We didn't elevate there
Let's
yet.
elevate it. Let's elevate it.
I wanna
No
ask you
shade
what-
to the twerkers, because
What was that? I don't know if it was a whirlwind, but what was that whirlwind like of getting your master's and also kind of just being like, you know what? Like, I just need to figure this stuff out. And kind of just like moving to find yourself after.
It was
that kind of
dope.
achievement.
It was dope. It was like I moved to New York. I started working at The View. And I decided after working at the Oprah Show that I wanted to work in TV. I was like, I definitely want to work in TV, but I cannot live in Chicago. So I have this master's. I'm in New York. I get a job. I get my job at The View the same way I got it with Oprah. I just called them. I was like, hey, I saw, I'm just wondering if you guys are hiring, entry level production. They're like, we actually are.
Great. Do you have a fax machine?
Right. Listen, but this is what I did. I hand delivered my resume to them.
Nice.
Hand delivered it. They called me for an interview, hired me. So I started working at The View. Amazing. I'm living in New York. I'm working at The View. I'm running around Times Square doing this and that. I'm on set, whatever. But I couldn't afford to live in New York on The View salary. Just couldn't do it. And I was not here for the struggle.
For sure.
I was like, I'm here. I'm here. No, I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not here. I was like, I tried to be here, but I can't be here.
Yeah.
I just wasn't there for the struggle.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to move back to LA. And they were like sad to see me go, but they helped me get a job at the newsroom and at the Prospect Studios, ABC. So
Gotcha.
ABC is The View. So they were like, we'll help you get a job in LA because we understand the struggle is real.
Yeah.
Moved to LA, started working at ABC. And then I started hosting, like being a hostess at a restaurant because the ABC newsroom was like kind of part-time. And then I kind of got recruited to do videos, I guess, around the same time. And it just was like, why not? Like, you have to make money.
For sure.
This is an easy way, and I can fit it in between the schedule of these two jobs. So that's kind of what it was.
Absolutely.
And I was at that age where it was just like,
Cool.
it was fine. It was
Yeah.
like not a big deal. Yeah. And like I said, it was before like, twerking. So it was not a lot of work to be, a video girl on set. It was like, you just have to be pretty and get dressed up and do hair and makeup. And I was
Yeah.
like, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
So it was, just fun.
What was it like not having as much like direction at that time coming out of dealing with your masters, where something like it's so solid and so like something you've been working towards so often, and you're going to TV, but it's like now you're back in LA and juggling these different things.
I loved it. It was kind of one of the few times in my life where I've had I didn't have any kind of real direction, but I was comfortable. It was like one of the few times. It was one of the few times. I've never
Interesting.
felt that comfortable with like kind of being all over the place. I don't think before that or after that. It was like a window.
Nice.
So I'm glad I had I don't know how it happened, but I'm glad it happened.
So you're pretty content.
I was super content. I mean, I was
Awesome.
turning up. I was having fun. I was making enough money to make ends meet. I didn't have like a big overhead at all.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, I was like renting a room somewhere, and I think my car was paid for. I was just kind of like enjoying just enjoying myself and like kind of maybe celebrating my accomplishments up until then. Yeah.
Did the future start creeping in your mind, like what's next, or was it more so like let's just enjoy this while it's...
Yeah, I wasn't thinking what's next. It just felt like,
Got you.
yeah. I mean, yeah, because I was like, I'm making money, and I'm, I have a pretty good place to live, and I have a car that works, and I didn't want for anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't really thinking.
And
about,
you were enjoying life.
Yeah.
Back with the Mercedes is like rolling around.
I did not have a Mercedes, though. Remember, I was looking at the Mercedes.
I get the Volvo, but you were back in
You got the paid off Volvo.
I was back in the town of Mercedes. I had the paid off. I think I was driving like a Supra. Oof, bad. A Supra.
The Supras were tight. They don't even make them
feel
anymore.
that.
They don't. Shout
I
out to the
respect that.
Supra though, but
Yeah,
it was
shout out to
definitely
the Supra for
a
sure.
Supra.
So when you got that call from Oprah, what was going through your head at the time?
I was like, that was like a snap into reality. Like, okay, Itika, you've been running around and getting it, kind of figuring it out how to make ends meet, going from this job to this job to this job, working part-time here, this, there. Like, now this is an opportunity to get a full-time position, make great money, have benefits,
And being the most inspiring workplace that you've experienced
and to go
so far.
back to Harpo. And so I jumped at it, and when I flew out for the interview, by the time I got home, because I think I had a cell phone. Maybe I didn't have a cell phone then either. I was kind of late to the cell phone game too. I don't know why. I mean, often
You had a voicemail.
I had a voicemail. I don't know why it was like late to the cell phone game. I don't know. It was weird. I think it was also like when you were watching Sex and the City and Carrie Bradshaw didn't have a cell phone yet. She was like over it. And maybe I was like trying to be like her. Like, you know where to find me.
I feel you.
So they called me by the time I got back to wherever I was staying, and they offered me the job. And then they said like I had 3 weeks to move to Chicago.
It became real.
And I jumped at it. I was excited about it. Because honestly, I hate to say it, but I always want to kind of be intellectually stimulated. I knew I wasn't getting that piece here.
Got you.
But I could see how you could be content not having it because you've just been through it so rigorously for so long. It's been such like an integral part of not only just your upbringing, but like everything that you've been focusing on.
Yeah.
So to kind of like relieve that valve and just do something a little more free, must have felt good too.
Yeah.
Right?
But by the time they called, I was kind of like, then I started thinking real thoughts like, okay, what am I doing? Where am I at? How much is any of this worth?
Yeah.
If I leave it tomorrow because I'm offered this job, will any of it matter? And it was like, not really. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like the things I thought about that I would miss, I didn't think that I would lose them if I moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to think about. Like whenever you have to make a big move like that.
It's also a very telling thing to think about. Like when you get to the stage in life where, because I feel like we all have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we all have these moments in our lives where I guess our fun level and like kind of like our self-worth level is like a little bit more tied into our surroundings than with ourselves.
Yeah.
And then, whether earlier or later or just at the right time, we kind of really start thinking about what the I, quote unquote, want. Because like it's telling that you didn't want to be in Chicago because of the weather.
Yeah.
And then you came back to LA and you were making it work.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity arose, and it was like, you know what, like it's time.
Yeah.
Right? Like
That's exactly
there are
what
certain times in our lives where, whether it's unbeknownst to us, whether it's us making, reaching out for a certain scenario or something coming calling, there's a readiness within us at a certain moment in our lives. For some people, it happens like later, or some people, it happens on the onset, and others, it's just along the way. But I feel like we start to take a little more selfish approach to selflessness.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's very, yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to hear that, like, at that time for you, it was like, you know what? I looked around me, and that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. No.
And I thought of this opportunity, back to the experience that I had when I was working there, and how I'd be a fucking fool not to take this.
A fool.
Right. For real.
A fool.
But like that's the beauty of it, because like
Yeah.
some people get that after hitting a rock bottom.
Yeah. No.
Right? Like what you just spoke of for me was like,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like I came to that realization like after I hit a rock bottom in my life and I bounced back. But like for me, I was able to bounce back because I've always had it. It's just an internal, like it's a
Yeah.
mind thing.
And I was not at rock bottom. I
No,
was.
not,
No,
at,
not
not
at
at
all.
all. I'm
Not
just
even
saying,
close,
like,
yeah.
the beauty of your ability to just
Yeah.
compartmentalize yourself and be like, okay, cool. This opportunity came.
Mm-hmm.
Not really cool with Chicago. Love LA, but what's better for me?
Yes.
I think that's the bigger picture there.
Yeah.
Of in that moment, it was like, what is going to be the best for me?
Yes.
And
Yes.
for you, it wasn't academia in Chicago. It was going back to Harpo.
And I also try to listen to the universe. If that sounds too like Mother Earthish.
Not at all.
But the fact that they called me, the fact that I wasn't looking for
Absolutely.
them, the fact that it was like, oh, the record playing again, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to pay attention to the universe. I try not to fight it. And I had to learn that because I was so adamant about getting out of Richmond, I remember just feeling like things had to go a certain way so I could
sure.
get the out.
This
You know
came
what I
to
mean?
you.
Yeah.
This came to me, but it also was. It came to me, but the way that it came to me, it was like, okay, the universe has me. Like, Itika, you don't always have to do this, this, and that to get to something.
And this is, like, let's not get it twisted. This is Oprah and the universe.
Yes, Oprah in the universe.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Side,
For real.
like
Yes.
Oprah
Like,
first,
that's a
then
great-
it's like Oprah first,
Great-
and then
that's
the
a
universe.
Great partner with
And
the
then,
universe.
yes,
You know
she
what I'm saying?
partnered with the universe. They
Yeah.
came
Like,
together.
wait, Oprah
The
was
universe-
Batman and the universe was Robin.
Yes,
It's like coming
yeah.
along.
Yeah,
Like,
let's
all
be
right,
real.
cool.
The universe partnered with her.
The universe. But that's what it was. It just felt like I didn't have to work for it. I didn't have to
For
kind
sure.
of manipulate and navigate and go to be a paralegal and figure out this is why. Like, I just kind of, it just came to me. So in that moment, I really couldn't say no.
Yeah.
I'm like, now, come on. That would just be like spitting in the face of,
For sure.
this whole thing.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take it.
Mother Nature would not have taken that from you.
Yeah.
It would have spit right back. It was
I'd
like, what?
it'd have been some punishment going there.
For real.
So that's what I felt. So it's like, okay, I have to. It kind of felt like there's only one response to this, which is yes, I'll be there, and then I'll just let the universe take over.
It was that time for you.
What was the position?
It was an audience, like, producer position. So basically, the Oprah Winfrey Show audience was produced, which is why it was so dope. Like, her audience was so live and such an intricate part of the show because we produced it. We hand selected every single person that sat in a seat. It wasn't like out here, you see somebody on Venice Beach, they give you a little ticket,
Yeah.
come to this place, and it wasn't like that. Like, we treated our audience like they were our guests.
Yeah.
We hand selected them. We told them what to wear. We told them what time to come. We treated them like, royalty because we wanted them to be there and we wanted them to participate in the show. And we needed them for the show to be a success, for it to look beautiful.
For sure.
We cut to the audience all the time.
Yeah.
So we needed our audience to look a certain way, to go with the aesthetic, to go with the theme, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for like 3 to 4 seasons.
Incredible.
How'd you fit into that position? Did you feel good? Was it?
I felt really good. And it's one of those things in my life where it felt too good.
Really?
So sucks. I hate that about me. If something feels too good, if I'm too comfortable, I'm not like that anymore. I used to be like that, though. Not like that anymore. I'm like, oh, this feels good. Thank God. Let me just sit down and just like
Sit here and not move
put
for
my
a
feet
long
up. This is good. Don't ask me to move. Don't ask me to roll over. This feels real good right now. But I was at a stage in my life where if it felt too good, I was like, I need this to feel a little uncomfortable. To grow. Which I did.
For sure.
So basically, being the audience director, I was like the first line. They say you're the first line of defense. Like, so you're the first people that they meet before they meet Oprah. Mm-hmm. And they treat us like we were Oprah. Like, if we did anything that made them feel away, it was like, you're going to hear from my blah, blah, blah. Like, you treated me like this. So that was hard.
You're a representation.
Yeah, you're a representation. So what was good about that with me is I I like to say I have a high EQ, right? Your emotional, whatever. And so I can read people, I can sense people, I can gather people, like I can gather them together, like help them get it together. So I feel like a lot of that was just wrangling grown women.
For sure.
And I was able to do it very well. I had a good, for whatever reason, I was able to wrangle hundreds and thousands of grown ass women for years.
That's crazy.
That's
to think
actually
about,
an incredible quality, though.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, because in a show like that too, where the audience is such a huge part of the show.
Yes.
And beyond just the aesthetic, like the vibe. I mean, even from like doing this podcast on this small, extremely intimate level, like
I
it's
love it.
so important to us in the guests that we have on. And thinking about that in the audience on a macro level, a worldwide massive show as big as that, there's got to be so many layers that go into that.
So many layers. I mean, people who came to that show, most of them were women, and a lot of those women were emotionally needy in a lot of ways. Whether they, were dealing with heartbreak or they were dealing with certain illnesses. Like a lot of people came that were like cancer survivors or people that wanted to bring their mom because this was their mom's like, aging, and our one last wish is to see Oprah. So there were just all of these like very
because she's speaking to the people.
Yes.
And you being a gatekeeper of those seeking.
Yes.
To see.
It was unreal. It was pretty. When I think about it now, like pretty crazy. But it was
no, really.
But but I
sure.
did that for 4 seasons. Yeah. And I loved it. I worked with an amazing team of very present, aware women that we knew what our job was, and we did it with pride, and we treated everyone super respectfully, and we wanted everyone to leave there saying nothing but great things and having super, positive memories. So it was it was life-changing, and I'm very proud of the work that I did when I was working in our audience department.
How did that affect you? Like that period, how did that affect you in terms of just like the experience and the transformational aspect of it? Like what was that in that time of your life for you?
It kind of it's so interesting because I think I had a lot of a responsibility at a young age because I started that job at 24 that I didn't really know I didn't really grasp it.
Gotcha.
I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just doing, like I knew, because like I said, it's the EQ, right?
Yeah.
So when your EQ is kind of up
you just
there,
know how.
You just know how, but you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I loved it. I know I loved it.
For sure.
I know I enjoyed it. I know I loved the team I worked with.
Is it more one of those where you can like look back, like even just like as time passes and be like, damn, like, okay. Like it's like you get like the residual build from it?
This is what I will say. I learned a lot about people. I did. I learned a lot about people and people's needs, people's emotional needs, what people just need. Because I didn't come from a place where people's emotional needs really matter because we were really about survival. Where I grew up, it was like, we don't care about, bitch, you crying? Like, what's wrong?
For real.
Like, what's going on? Like, such and such, this and that. Like, sorry for your loss, but we got things to do over here.
Yeah.
So it really did give me like a sharp like jerk when it came to like, oh my gosh, like all of these people have these emotional needs and I have to tap into my emotions to satisfy their needs. And even if that need is simply to see this woman that they're used to seeing on TV every day, but she has to be seen in person because it's going to satisfy this thing.
Yeah.
Like I was fully aware of that. So that tapping into that, I think has created a more emotional person because I wasn't before then, I believe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So especially so driven by like academia, for
Yeah.
sure, that your kind of emotions could kind of hang in the background.
They had no resource. They were, what do I need them
It's
for?
like keep it moving.
Yeah, I'm like, they're just going to hold me back.
sure.
Like the 10 minutes is going to take me to cry over something, or 10 minutes is going to take me to cry. Yeah. That's the time I had allotted, and that was too much. So yeah.
That's like 10 for the year. That's all
For
we
the
get.
year.
Per year.
For the year. So yeah.
And being in an environment, it's so interesting because it's like even beyond the job, you're with Oprah every day.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I know,
Like
isn't it?
it's probably like humanized and normalized for you.
Yeah.
But for the rest of everyone,
Yeah.
it's pretty insane.
And
That's
it's
all I'm
crazy,
saying.
like, actually even thinking about it, like being in that terms of, like, in that position of guard to the, like, it's not only like being with the queen,
Yeah.
but also having the whole community wanting to see the queen as well.
Yeah.
Like, you get to see a side of people
Yeah.
that I guess, like, a lot of normal folk don't.
Yeah.
And especially for somebody with, like, when dealing with emotional intelligence and dealing with emotions, like, you're getting the gamut of it.
Well, it's hilarious. Like even watching the last award show where Oprah was like in the front row.
Yeah.
And, every actor that went up, they were like, "Oh, and Oprah's right in front
Yeah.
of me." Like it's just like you see the instant.
I mean,
impact
she has that
on
impact
people.
on people. She has that impact on me. She just does. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just a presence. You feel it. It like vibrates. Like I can't even tell you. Like if
For
you
sure.
try to deny it, you're a hater.
For sure.
Like you feel it. You feel it. You know you do.
Absolutely.
I'm like, you know you feel it. She just does. It's like a gift. It's just something. But it's the real deal is what I'll say. It's the real deal.
So why'd you leave?
The show ended.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
I
when the
worked
show
in a
ended.
few other departments there. I left the audience department after a few years, and I worked in a few other departments, and then the show ended, and then I moved back to LA.
Oh wow! So you were there till the end.
Till the bitter end.
To the bitter end.
The
Wow.
bittersweet end. Bittersweet end. Yeah.
Was that tough for you?
It wasn't because I was ready to get out of Chicago again.
Got you.
I was like,
I
Chicago.
understand when-
Yeah. We got to go.
I was there. What Remy say? Like 6 winters and 7 summers? I don't know. That's how I felt. I was there for plenty of winters. I was over it. I was ready to get
Yeah, I
back.
couldn't do that.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But
It was
now
a
it's
lot.
like coming back to LA. You're such a different person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are you?
Or are you? That's a cool. Yeah. Better.
I came back to LA. Ugh, this is like the part of my life that I don't necessarily. I'm not ready to legend. I don't know why I'm not ready,
You go where you
but
wanna
I'm
go.
just. I came back to LA. Having worked with Oprah and this amazing woman and heard the book of Oprah for 8 years and just soaked it all in, and I was living my best life, and I was abiding by all the rules of The Secret, and I was like doing that, and I came back to LA to a situation and I was like a shell of myself.
Really?
It was really crazy. It was crazy. It's crazy.
Now, in trying to brush through this,
Yeah, we don't have to.
how long did that last?
It lasted acutely, like the just being in it, not long. So I had the wherewithal to get out of it,
Okay.
but the
Residual.
effects of it lasted a couple of years.
Okay. What was it like for you in overcoming that?
What was it like? I went to therapy.
Okay.
And I realized that I was like traumatized. I was in a very traumatic, I was traumatized. It was a traumatic situation. I was being traumatized. And that's the best way I can describe it. And my therapist said one thing. She was like, when you're in the picture, you can't
Yeah.
see it. Like
Yeah.
when you're part of the painting, you can't see the painting for what it is because you're part of it.
For sure.
So I couldn't see what was happening because I was in it.
Yeah.
And I had to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I just had to work. I had to do a lot of work to get out of it. And I got out of it. But it took a long time. It was just, I don't know what happened. I don't know why. It was just like, I don't know. I think as women, not
to dwell on this, but this is a relationship and a growth from it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And naturally, all of these things take time.
Yes.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a traumatic experience,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's life in and of itself, whether it's our own insecurities in
Mm-hmm.
how we view the world, like these things happen.
Yeah.
And experiences.
But there's a lot of shame involved with it when you're like a woman who kind of prides yourself on being like together and strong and
Been on the Oprah.
yeah, you know,
for-
and then everybody looking at you on the sideline like, bitch, please.
Well, you know,
For sure.
Like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know, so you're like, I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
well, but I think that's real though. You know, I think you have to.
And I feel like, to be honest with you, like men and women go through this at the same in the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause I could tell you straight up, like I've been through a relationship where like I literally looked at my friends and they were looking at me from the standpoint of, bro, nobody would ever step to you verbally, and you over here taking this. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
And it took a lot of those convos for me to figure it out. But like, there's a beautiful. It's also a blessing in disguise when I think about that, right? For me, in my experience, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all as human beings go through, whether it's within a relationship or whether it's like within an experience in life, like we all go through these periods where we feel like the foundation is set in stone and it's a glass house.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah, my girlfriend's mom told me something when I was dealing with everything. She said, don't take any wooden nickels. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, trust me, just don't take any wooden nickels. And I'm like, wooden nickels? And I'm like, that's all I got in my purse is wooden nickels. All wooden nickels. So, yeah. So coming back was very traumatic for me personally, but professionally, I kind of landed on my feet. I got a job with AEG at LA Live in marketing. That's what I decided I want to do when I got back to LA. It's like, I want to work in marketing. I want to work in marketing. That's one of the departments I loved at the Oprah show that I wasn't able to get into, but I loved it just from the outside looking in. I started working at AG at LA Live in marketing. And that position really was part of what set me up to run my own business 100%. Everything I learned before then set me up to be, I think, 100% the person that I am. But business acumen, I observed a lot at the Oprah show, obviously. So I observed how she treated her employees. I observed the quality of the work that was done. I observed, all of those things. But the experience, like the feet on the ground, was starting with my marketing position at AEG.
I think it's a really cool thing that I want to touch on of this professional place that you're in, this kind of very positive experience that is giving you some place to grab onto, like an anchor while you're going through also this traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to have those two things before you can dive really deep into the darkness. One thing I really wanted to ask though was, what made you don't have to answer this. You can say, I'm just going to throw it out there and we see what happens. I'll start like this. I think therapy, like I'm just such a huge advocate for it, right?
Yeah.
I've been in it for 10 years, like I told you. And one of the biggest things that bothers me is the stigma based around it.
Yeah.
For men, for women, for children, for everybody.
Right.
I think, you go to the doctor when you have a broken arm, or when you're sick, you take medicine, but for some reason we associate like mental health totally differently.
Yeah.
I guess from this angle, saying like what compelled you or had enough courage to kind of get over that with yourself and dive into therapy to kind of help. I don't know if I phrased that the best way.
No, you're right.
But I just want to touch on that for the person or whoever's listening.
Yeah,
to just have a voice from your perspective.
No, my girlfriends, one in particular, have been telling me I needed to go to therapy for years. And I was like, girl, bye. I didn't think I needed therapy. I'm like, girl, I'm fine. I'm having a good time over turning up and blah, blah, blah. I'm in Chicago, blah, 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 blah. I was not listening to her. And then things started just getting really real, like to the point where I couldn't ignore what was happening and I couldn't stop it. And it was kind of snowballing. And I knew I was not in control. I was like, I am not in control of this situation, like on any level. And I was talking to one of my coworkers at the Oprah show, and she was like, some of us go to therapy. And I was like, my girlfriend's been telling me to go to therapy for years. She's like, yeah, we go to therapy. Some of us go see this one particular woman. She's like, I'll give you her information. I was like, okay, fine. I went to see her, and in the first session, she basically told me what the heck I was dealing with, and she gave me a book. And I started reading the book, and I'm like, yo, this is my life right now. I read that book cover to cover, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is my life. This is what I'm dealing with in one session. And I was sold. I was like, I'm going, and I knew enough to know one session wasn't going to cure whatever I was going through. And then it was just a matter of fixing whatever the issue was. What is going on that I'm now, that I've been in this situation, that I'm making these decisions, and I'm hearing these things, and I'm just responding in these ways. I needed to really get to the bottom of everything. Like I was like, okay, I get it. You had me at, she had me at hello.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started going every week for 3 years.
Amazing.
Incredible.
From that point on.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah. It would save my life.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like for anybody listening.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's like, I feel like when you go, even when it's like nothing's wrong or you're feeling a type of way or you're kind of insecure about a thought that you have, like the beauty of an unjudgmental ear is something that's like, because just imagine, one of the most beautiful things when I look at the thought of even therapy is we should be going and being able to be as open as we are with our friends and our family, but for some reason or another, we're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to be able to have somebody that we're able to speak to openly about whatever the fuck it is, right? It's a absolutely mind-bogglingly freeing scenario.
And they're not there to judge you.
Yeah.
They're there to help you and to heal you.
Yeah.
And to whatever.
But
like,
just imagine even the thought of vulnerability amongst us.
Yeah.
Right? Because so many of us have to deal with the thought of judgment.
Yeah.
In scenarios. Yeah. Like if everybody around us had an open ear.
Yeah.
Right. And at the same time, everybody around us was able to like vocalize their truest thoughts.
Yeah.
There's a freedom to that.
I agree.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And you're also sitting across from a professional who understands how the mind works.
Absolutely.
And can see things from other perspectives that you never even knew existed. Like they'll open doors that you're like, oh damn,
when I tell you with the first session, she was like, she pegged me and she gave me a book, and the book was like my life.
Yeah, no,
she like pulled it off. She's like, you should probably just read this.
Seriously, no,
I was like, it's that simple.
to be in that kind of environment, it is like going to a doctor when your arm is broken. You're gonna and you know, it's such a productive thing. And I always like, that's why I didn't want to press it, but I always like to take the opportunity to just speak on it for a second.
For sure.
And also while you're paralleling that with your professional life, because a lot of times your professional life you can't really afford that to fall.
Yeah.
You know, you got to pay bills. You still have to have responsibilities. I remember I had a job when I first started going to therapy, and I was having like panic attacks every hour, like on the hour, crazy shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep. I would like call in, like, oh, I didn't sleep last night. I got to take the day off. And my boss just told me one day, he's like, you know, it's okay if you like don't sleep for a couple of days. Like you're gonna live. And for some reason, like him saying that, I was like, he's like, just come in, you'll be fine. I hadn't slept for like 2-3 days at the time.
Wow.
He's like, just come in, you'll be fine. And like I came in tired and delirious. He's like, just do some work, you'll be good. And I did some work. I went home and I passed out after that.
Wow.
And I think just having that, it created enough anxiety that was being sacrificed. So to have that like sense of safety there, of something that I felt confident in, I was good at. It sounds like for you too, like having AEG in this career professionally by your side, helps with confidence, helps kind of take you out of your head, helps with all those things, and you can't really afford for that to fall into while you're dealing with some other stuff.
Absolutely. And because I'm a worker, like I'm used to having a job, and that kind of defines me too. So it's like, if I'm not working, like, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
You're already feeling like some loss of like yourself in whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
And to lose that side of it, it's like, no.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm just kind of useless. It was what I would unfortunately tell myself. I wish that I could work on too, though. Because, you know, I won't work forever.
For sure. For sure.
I'm going to be chilling on a yacht in San Tropez and stuff.
That's right. Well, it's interesting to hear, though, like in this new experience that it did give you, you know, it opened another door into giving you another perspective on business.
Yes.
And how important that is. And
it gave me the tools that I needed to promote my business. I wouldn't have known how to promote my business in modern day.
For sure.
Well, everything from like business etiquette to the sense of it. I mean, what are some of the things you kind of really like learned that you took as assets and tools from there?
Wow, it's so much. So basically, when I worked at AEG, our marketing team did all the marketing for all of LA Live. So we marketed the Staples Center and everything that happened in there. So it's Clippers game, you know, Lakers games,
concerts,
Sparks, concerts, Grammys, MTV Awards. We marketed Regal LA Live. That was my account. So we did over 200 premieres. So making sure that those premieres were, you know, up and running, executed. Everyone got their tickets, all the celebrities. I mean, we did Fruitvale Station's premiere. We did, you know, I mean, the LA Film Festival, like, list goes on and on. So we had like high end folks coming through there. We marketed all the restaurants. So you've got Katsuya and Fleming's. So essentially what it takes to promote that venue, LA Live, as a marketer, as a marketing team, like every tool, every like marketing asset known to man, like we took advantage of, from digital to print to email to social media. So I was privy to all of that. So I knew how many emails were going out, what day, what time, how many things were printed, what calendar was printed, what newspaper we were printing in, if we were, you know, putting digital specs up somewhere around LA Live, how much that cost. I was ordering things. I was like just given the blueprint.
Big. And that's
huge.
That's top.
And I was taking it all in.
Yeah.
Trust me, because I knew
that I was learning. I knew that I was there to learn because I didn't have any prior marketing experience. I was like, okay, and I'm at AEG at LA Live, no prior marketing experience. And I'm just thrown in here. Like, I'm taking it all in.
Yeah.
And I did. And then I left after a couple of years, after 2 years.
And there's so many interesting things about, we live in this day right now where entrepreneurism,
Entrepreneurship.
let's just go with that.
Yeah.
It's become a buzzword.
Yeah.
But there's something we said for jumping into the corporate world and
Right.
understanding big business and how
Right.
it functions.
Right.
Because how to write an
And then also being able to jump off that cliff.
yes,
Yes.
big
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Big time.
Yes.
But like something as simple as writing like an email and understanding
Absolutely.
business email etiquette
Yes.
and the intricacies with that. And
Honey,
and
I
understanding
got
protocol.
first class. Let me tell you, when I was at one of my jobs, I'm not going to say which one, I was told by a boss that you should put in the email the order of superiority
on CC.
on CC.
Yup.
And I was like, okay. I had no idea. I would just CC, the first name that came to mind. They're like, no, the president goes first, and then the VP, and then the
Yep.
assistant, and then the. So even things like that, I don't take that for granted that I learned that. I'm very
the difference-
cognizant of the things that I learned while being in corporate America. I'm very
difference-
cognizant.
The difference between signing your signature as best regards, all the best, warm regards, like they all kind of.
Meanwhile, I sign it. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's what I like. But
Cheers.
I
For
get I'm
sure.
communicating something.
For sure.
Sometimes I say cheers. Sometimes
Yeah.
I say best.
Yeah.
I either do
It
best or
depends, right?
cheers.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's like my cheers is like, because I still want my business to come off. I don't want it to come off as corporate. I want it to
Of
come
course.
off
Yeah,
as
yeah.
like more fun, and we're about to do something
But that-
exciting.
Even that's a part of the.
But I
the brand.
understand that I'm
Knowing that.
communicating
Yes.
something.
Yes.
You're not gonna, if you want that feel, you're not gonna be like best, warmest regards.
Yes, I'm
Sincerely.
never going to do sincerely.
Sincerely, whoa.
I'm never. Oh, and then what about thank you? Period. People get so
Oh,
mad about that. I'm
man.
like, it's a period. They're like, no, but you don't put a period after thank you. Like that's just like rude. I'm like,
Thank-
oh my god.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Period. I know people get.
Thank you.
The period's almost like the.
Yeah.
I know people get so
The
offended
period's
with
like
the.
the bitch. Like, thank you, bitch.
I know. I'm like the fact that people
invisible
get
ink.
offended. The thank you period is
Yeah.
offensive.
But there's something to be said even on that level.
Yes.
Of like business style. and
Yes,
etiquette
yes,
to
yes, yes.
Understanding how to roll out an entire campaign.
Yes.
To the protocols, to the entire process of like, all right, we're going to take this from step 1 and execute to 10.
Absolutely.
And those tools are just so valuable. So, I encourage people not to like, don't jump and say like, I want to be an entrepreneur because you want to fucking have a Corona and sit on a laptop on the beach and do your fucking work there. Like, if you have an opportunity to jump into the corporate side to learn some stuff, take it.
Yeah,
For
take
sure.
it. My cousin, so I had a cousin, shout out to big families because you got a cousin to do everything.
Yep.
I had a cousin who was a real estate agent. So essentially he's in sales and he's an entrepreneur. But he used to tell me while you're working at all these businesses, he's like, we're going to call it the cubicle theory. He's like, sit in that cubicle and suck it all in. And he told me that from like the gate because he always wanted me to have my own business. And he just saw that for me. I didn't necessarily see it for
Yeah,
me.
did
He
you ever-
saw it for me.
Wow.
No, I never saw it for myself.
I want to ask you a question. When did you, or do you currently see it for yourself? Because I feel like a lot of us, that's the scariest part.
Yeah.
Right? Because so many of us can see what we're told we should, but I feel like the X factor of like the self, just like when the call came and
Yeah.
you were in LA and
Yeah.
you're like, all right, need to make this
Yeah.
choice. I feel like even still, like whether it's entrepreneurial or even if we like dumb it down to just life in and of itself, like there comes a point where it's like the elixir is believing in ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether how grandiose or whether how minuscule it actually is, like just the thought of like, okay, I'm thinking about this. Like, it's beyond that, like, goal setting
Yeah.
bullshit and all that. It's just like, I can see that.
Yeah. Gosh. So it happened recently. It didn't happen years ago.
Incredible.
It happened recently.
Incredible.
Yeah. And it was with my current boyfriend, who's also my business partner. And I was transitioning out of working for a company and applying for jobs and getting great interviews with great companies. And he's like talking to me on my former employer and like, you did this, you did that. He knew I pretty essentially ran the business. And he's like, you should just open a business, like same business, because you ran that business and did pretty good. And it's, you know, that industry makes good money.
Yeah.
And I think we could do it. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then I was like, you gonna hold me down?
That's a very real thing.
I was like, because how I know how to make money is this way.
Yeah.
This other way that you're proposing is a whole new, you know. So you gonna hold me down? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, let's do it then, you know.
Shout out to B.
For real.
And we did it, and it's been so awesome. And it's just been, and I couldn't see myself working for someone else. I just couldn't. I hope I don't have to, you know, because I feel like what I'm offering now is so much greater than what I was able to or would be able to offer working for another corporation. I think what I'm offering now is like really when they're like, God gives you a gift, you have to kind of do it. You have to live it out. That's your gift back to him.
Yeah.
You know, I really think what I'm doing now and how I'm showing up in the world is how I'm supposed to show up. And I feel like it's a blessing to myself and to others. And I hope that I can continue to show up in this way for a very long time.
And it's a blessing that the experience that you had up until this point.
Yes.
And also even sans the experience, like finally the belief and the support.
Yes.
Right? Because I'll just put it honestly, like, you know, shout out to our partners and those that like teach us something and those that are there for us and that like help us build something. Right?
Yes.
But like that in and of itself is still fickle when it comes in comparison to belief in self.
Yes.
Right? To know that somebody has our back is one thing. But to be able to take it on internally is something that may never need to be spoken of.
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful thing. And to have, you know, the support of your boyfriend and your partner.
Yeah.
Right? And companion
Yes.
and person in your life. That is something that like allows it to grow and be even more significant. And it's beautiful that, again, at the right time, all of your experiences came to head.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I read this book, Lean In. You guys heard that book? What's her name? Sheryl Sandberg. I forget.
Yeah.
She wrote in her book about the importance for women of having a supportive partner. And she basically said that will make or break your career as a woman. If you have a partner that's willing to support you and be there for you, whether it's your ex-husband who's there to help support you while and, you know, take care of the children and blah, 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 or your current partner, it doesn't have to be, you know, but just having your lover, your partner who's willing to support you, she's like, that is so important to women. I think it's more important to women because we do lean to our men, you know, we do in a different way than you guys with your women, you know, we're like, help us with our confidence. You know, we may not even know that we're doing it, but we're really looking to you to kind of lead, even if we're, you know, women of, you know, a certain stature, we're still saying, you know, what do you think? Or can we get here? Boost us up, you know, that kind of thing. And she talks about it in her book. And at the time I read it and I was like, okay, that's an interesting statement. And now I'm like, I'm living it. I'm like, I have that support and it really has benefited me in a lot of ways. I'm very, very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for it.
Now, you have your business is a flower business.
Yes.
Old Vine Florals.
Old Vine Florals.
Shout
yeah.
out.
What it do?
which as a and that might come to anyone who's just heard your story. Might have come like, oh, wait, a what business?
I know.
Did
It's
you
a
say a
flower.
marketing? No, I said a flower
business.
Now, and that's not even like a downplaying thing. It's just a different lane. But one, what made you go into the flower business? I know it was the past job.
Yeah.
But it's so different from what you've done. Because I also want to talk about the fact that for face value, yeah, it's flowers, but it's still a business and you're still an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of challenges and things that you have to go through in building a world-class business.
Yeah. So I started working for a florist, very, very popular florist out of the Four Seasons Beverly Hills as a marketer. I was hired, or he was a client. So he's like contracted marketing. I started doing my own. I started having marketing clients after leaving AEG. And I went from being my marketing client to being his head of marketing, and then kind of being his general manager. So I was a general manager running this flower business. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed flowers. They were beautiful. We had amazing clients. I mean, our clients were high end. Louis Vuitton, Cartier, Chateau Marmont, the Four Seasons, obviously, celebrities, I could name them.
Yeah.
Demi Moore, Nicole Richie, blah, blah, blah. So we were just the top tier florist, the go-to florist.
Incredible.
And I was kind of doing everything, overseeing the flower buy. So what flowers we were buying, what flowers were in season, vases, deliveries, design, hiring, letting people go, payroll. I was just, I wore every hat. I was running this business. And when I left and it was time to kind of look for another position, I didn't really want to start my own business, but I had all the tools and I knew what it took to run a flower business. I'd left there knowing how to run a flower business.
Yeah.
And so I started.
And it excited you.
And it excited me and I enjoyed it and I loved it. And so I started a flower business. Because I'm like, I know how to run a flower business. That's what I know how to do.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I know how to run a flower business. So I'm going to start a flower business. It was just that simple. It wasn't like, that was just like that.
And the thing is, though, when you're running a business, there's so many other factors that get involved when it's your own business that you have to think about.
Yeah.
Everything from what type of corporation or LLC you're going to do to the business side of it, all the way to your brand, your messaging, getting clients, being the owner and the person that works there, and trying all those things. Like, it's super intricate that you have to deal with.
Absolutely.
Talk a little about the building blocks and maybe the challenges of that, as well as speak on being a woman entrepreneur and also a Black woman entrepreneur, which I just threw out there. But I want to hear from that perspective while you're jumping into the world of business for any entrepreneur, because you could run a business for somebody, you could work at a company, but when you're out there alone, well, you have your boy.
Yeah.
So you're not totally alone, but
Not totally alone.
when it's your company, when especially Old Vine that's so close to like you, there's this intangible thing that personal.
Yeah.
You can't detach. You can't be like, I'm doing this for him. If shit fucks up, it's really on him. I'm running it, but it's on him.
It's on me.
It's on you.
Yeah.
And it's you out there. It's a reflection of you.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
Oprah, not
Yeah.
AEG, not Flower
Yeah.
Homie. You.
Yeah.
For real.
I know. Gosh, I hope this is a lot. I hope I can answer it.
Yeah, no,
properly.
I just dropped it. But just
He was like,
and I just threw. No, but that's just the angles. Some things that I, to talk about.
So I feel like, I don't know. This is that nature versus nurture thing.
Sure.
I've always, for lack of a better way of saying this, gave a shit about what people thought. I have.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people like, I don't give a shit what people think. I do give a shit about what people think.
Yes.
It matters to me.
it exists.
I'm representing myself. I've
Yeah.
always been like that. As far back as I can remember. So I treat my business like that. I give a shit what people think about my flowers. I do. I'm not sitting here like, here go some flowers and give me some money and bye. Like, I'm like, I want these to be the most beautiful flowers you've ever seen. I want them to be fresh. I want them to last hopefully a week. I want your friends to come over and love them. I want you to call me back for more. Like, I want everything for you in these flowers. And that's how I am with myself personally. So I pour into my flowers. I pour into my business. I've always poured into myself. I care about what people think. Yeah. I don't think that's overrated. I think it's actually proper.
Absolutely.
So, so that's how I run my business. And I care about what people think, from the flowers I send to my clients to the wholesale floral people that I buy my flowers from. Like, I have a great relationship with my wholesalers. I have a great relationship with, you know, the guys that I buy my vases from. I have a great relationship with my interns. Like, I just feel like across the board, treat people well, respect yourself, show people that you give a shit, and people will give a shit about what you're doing. And then there's no like, that doesn't change. Like, there's no exceptions to this rule. I give a shit, so you give a shit. And we all finna give a shit and have a great time. And that's what we're doing over here.
I mean, is that rocket science?
No. You know,
that's Itika science, though. I respect that. For real.
I'm like, is it?
For real. No, but for real. That's incredible. But like, you have to get there.
Yeah.
Because like, to be able to truly, I guess, like, whittle it all down to that, it takes experience.
It does.
Right? And it takes living to understand what you want from your business. And it also takes a deeper understanding of self to be able to know that. Like, so many people are out here, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. Well, put yourself in front of a fucking mirror and see what's good then.
Really?
You feel me? Like,
seriously.
Like, fuck everybody else. Like, look at yourself and say what you'd say to God knows who, and see who looking like an idiot. Is it you or the reflection? And which one's different?
Hello.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
but that's the beauty of it. Like, that is absolutely gorgeous. You feel me? Like, and I feel like that was like the most gorgeous summation of this incredible journey.
100%. Like,
it all led to giving a shit.
For real.
And the thing is,
which you do.
Which I do.
And if you
I
see,
actually do.
if you see the work she's doing, and you see her business, ladies and gentlemen, I did flowers for my wedding. It's very beautiful.
Incredible.
They were beyond incredible. Still getting compliments about it, but you can tell that you are really in your flowers and what you're doing and the representation of that, you know. And being an entrepreneur now, or a business owner, or whatever fucking label you want to throw on it, like trying to get some money, like
right,
Tropez chaser,
all of that.
With all that being said, in this kind of like new chapter, are you finding it to be really exciting, even the hard parts of it?
Yeah, I mean, I have some exciting stuff up my sleeve. I can't talk about right now.
Oh, damn, top secret. We got to talk
know.
about after the show when the mics are on.
It is.
Super top secret, but yeah, the universe is what do they say? Conspiring. The universe is definitely conspiring. So I have some stuff up my sleeve that's going to help take my business to another level. I'm very excited about, and I think it's because this is what the universe wants me to do, and it's dope. It's like, thanks, you know. So yeah, I think it's all good. It's all good.
All good.
Shout out to the test of time.
Yeah.
And like for anybody, like
shout out to faxes back in the day.
For real. Dial-up internet, faxes.
Not having a cell phone and having to get home to find out what happened.
But to be honest with you, like, your journey has been incredible, and your ability to just, you know what I love about your story is that you know yourself, and however hard or arduous it may have been, or however euphoric times may have been, you knew yourself in those times, and it's a constant evolution.
Yeah.
And you know, whether things broke you down or built you up, you're still swinging your punches and you're still walking in your stride with your chin up.
Yeah.
And that's a damn inspiration.
Oh my God.
You feel me?
Who knew? I mean,
Yeah, and you're continuing to make it. Like, that's the beauty about this whole "Mama, we made it" shit. Because it's not about making it. Because, like, the fallacy or truth, however we want to look at it, is that we're all continuously making it.
Yes.
Like, there's no destination. The destination is truly the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what they say. They said it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the only time you reach a destination is when you're dead. So, like,
Yeah.
what are we really talking about?
Yeah.
Talk to him.
It's about the journey. It's a dope journey.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
And I can't wait. I can't wait for your journey to continue to grow and blossom.
I'm excited about it. It's happening,
Yeah.
guys. That's
It's
the top
incredible.
secret part.
Incredible.
I
The
do
what's
want
next.
to.
What
What was that?
So what's up to the journey?
For real.
Oh, man.
I thought downtown was turned up. Little did I know.
Hey, dude.
Little
For real.
the Wilshire corridor.
For real.
Sirens.
For real. Sirens
like,
blaring.
I'm actually gonna have Nushi ask this question. He knows what to ask because he does it so eloquently.
Oh shit, we about to go there.
oh God.
And I'm actually guessing right now because I haven't asked this in a fucking minute. But and tell me if I'm wrong though. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me the side eye if I am. But if there was one thing that you could look back and tell to young Itika that was just figuring her shit out,
Right.
right? And knowing that she wanted to stand for something, knowing that she wanted to be something, and not knowing how the fuck she was going to get there, what would you tell her now?
I would tell her, God, I would tell her so many things, Jesus Christ. Okay, what was the one thing I would tell her? I would tell
Even if you can whisper something to her in passing.
but this is not a whisper. I'm going to tell her
Well, shit,
I'm on a parkway.
If you want to give her a monologue, then do it. But you got to stand up to the stage with this
Well, I know. What would I tell her? I would tell young Itika to take more risks. I would say take more risks. I would say risk it all, bet it all. Because you're going to land on your feet.
one way or another.
I would just tell her to take more risks, risk it all, bet it all. Just do it. You're going to land on your feet. You're going to land on your feet, but just experience it. Because the older you get, you can't do it. You're like, I got responsibilities and thoughts that are preventing me. But I would tell her to just take more risks for sure.
Respect.
Yeah.
Dang.
And there it
Itika,
is.
thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
for real.
It's
Thank
been an
you.
incredible
This
journey.
has been so fun.
real.
Oh my
Thank you.
God.
Yeah.
I made it. Does this mean I made it?
Yeah.
Does this mean I made it? I'm done. I quit. I
You
can quit
did.
now. I can move to San Tropez with my Corona. I made it.
Hey.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on,
For
being
real.
as vulnerable and telling your story the way you lived it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, this will inspire somebody or comfort somebody
hope
in the
so.
same positions that you were once at. And thank you. This has been
Thank
And keep
you.
risking it all.
Oh
Because,
my
like, even
God.
Itika now, like, she'll do the damn same.
I
Yeah.
know
For real.
she should. Meanwhile,
real.
I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
young Itika. I'm still
respect
young
that.
Itika.
Love.
Fine Itika, Old Vine Florals on
real.
IG. Connect.
Yes.
Drop her a line.
Love.
Thank you, fellas. This is
Love.
fun.
Thank you. We out.